The story begins with a few vials sit idle, as the count is 999, and with one last magic touch, it now reaches 1,000. A gray-haired boy says, "Today's quota is complete." The boy opens up his stopwatch and sees that it's not even noon yet. He finished quicker than expected. A small glass vial is shown, and the boy narrates that this is distilled water, which is used to make various potions, but also to transmute magic creatures. It is said to be an indispensable ingredient, with quality that has a lot of influence over the quality of the final transmuted product. The boy internalizes that his distilled water is special, and when he mixes magic uniformly, it makes it even better quality. After this, the boy snaps his stopwatch shut and says he would be spending his afternoon doing research. And just then, someone addresses him as Master Rust. The gray-haired boy answers, if Master Riholtsam is in need of something. To this the man seems to take some offense, and asks if this is the right answer. Riholtsam, the alchemist from the Arms Alchemy Department, replies demeaningly that this is typical of basic research department people. While leaving, he says to forget what just happened, and the president is calling him. Backstory mentions that Riholtsam is always trying to start an argument with Rust every chance he gets. Riholtsam is proud to be a part of the arms department since it makes a lot of money, but he's also always complaining about the basic research department's budget. Rust has a saddening glare, while Riholtsam laughingly says that he's leaving with the entire casket of distilled water vials, and mentions that people who are supposed to do chores should just do them and stay quiet. After this, another man authoritatively says that they are cutting the basic research department's budget. Rust looks at a piece of paper and is shocked by what he sees, as it states that the budget has been reduced to 0. While Rust stands with the paper, the man tells him that the basic research department simply assists with the other departments and shows no actual results, so it is only natural to distribute its budget to the ones who actually make money. Rust tries to argue, but gets stopped immediately as the man continues that the basic research department has been disbanded, and he is to do spade work for other departments from now on. He continues that Rust should be glad he still has a job, and then orders him to go back to work. After this, the man lets a big smoke right off on the face of Rust, while he thinks that there is no point in arguing with this. He walks away while thinking, even the pipe this man is smoking is a result of the basic research department. He imagines a manuscript showing how the smoke pipe is created. The technique efficiently takes in magic elements from the atmosphere, which is a joint project by the basic research department and the technical department. And as Rust stomps away, he thinks of how his basic research department is being neglected by the higher-ups because they are disconnected from the actual work. Afterwards, he sits on his easy chair and ponders that the budget and personnel have been shrinking ever since this man became the president. Nevertheless, he carried on doing his job. Imagining different alchemy processes, he thinks deeper about the fact that he is proud, because none of the products they have developed recently would have succeeded without the basic research department. All of them need ingredients of the highest quality, and he is the one preparing them. Finally, he decides there is no point talking to the president, since the basic research department has been disbanded. Right then, the telecommunication device rings a bell, which could only mean a message, but he wonders who it could be from. In narration, this machine is a marvel of modern alchemy. Needless to say, the basic materials of this were also provided by his department. He looks at a piece of paper and exclaims how this takes him back. Rust gets happy to see that he receives a message from Kaylin and says that he hasn't seen her since they graduated from the academy. He thinks that they got along surprisingly well and how she is no different than a male friend, and recollects the time when she complimented him and said that she has a proposal for him. In his memories, the classroom they were studying in turns into a jungle and a teacher catches them. Ultimately, they were made to write a written apology. He laughs thinking of the days when they were up to no good. Regardless, he heard that she did well in the last war. He decides to open up the letter, which starts with, "To Master Rust." It reads, perhaps he thinks that she is being rude for contacting him so suddenly, but let her get right to the point. With a surprised face, he reads that the girl received a dominion in the borderlands, and she asks if he could help her develop it. Rust looks indecisive, as he imagines two paths in different directions in front of him. One is the budget, which makes him picture a future where he will be doing nothing but chores for the rest of his life. On the other hand, is this parchment filled with an unwritten future. The boy finally looks out the window and says that he would be quitting. As he leaves the parchment on the table, the final line reads, "That should have fun together again." He straps a backpack and thinks that he has been there since before the current president took the job, and so he has some emotional attachment to this place. Especially since the last president, Master Halhammer, was a self-made man, and he knew the importance of the basic research department. As he touches the books for the final time, he thinks of when they developed many products together. He recollects of the time when his master announced that the people of the basic research department are the cornerstone of this association. While he walks towards the exit, he remembers that Master Halhammer was demoted as a result of the change in government, and so a former government official was put in his place. Just as he is about to knock on the door, he hears a conversation from the Arms Association floating in from the inside. They were saying that the budget from the basic research department would now belong to the Arms Association. The decision to cut the dead-weight basic research department was very wise, to which someone replies that it was an easy decision to make. Rust irritably thinks that whoever is inside could at least put the effort into muffling this conversation. After that, he knocks on the door, to which Sam asks if it is Rust. The president shouts rudely and asks him if there is anyone who told him to come in, and mentions that he can't come in whenever he pleases. But just then, a paper is slammed on the table as Rust, with a stern look in his eyes, says he quits. The president looks shocked and screams back at Rust, asking how he could quit. But Rust looks back and says that he can quit as he hands in his labor contract, to which the two men look seriously at the paper. While they read it, Rust informs them that his labor contract is about the basic research department, and thus if he decided to quit, he would have to train his replacement in this department, but thanks to a certain someone, this department just happened to be dissolved. Rust then waves with his hand and says he could leave today, but the two men interjects, and Sam asks who would be doing the chores and making the distilled water, to which Rust tells him to make it himself, as this kind of work is not covered by his contract anyway, and tells him that since he is an alchemist himself, this should be easy for him, which makes Sam angry. The president calms his nerves and says it is good that he is leaving, there isn't anything to worry about, and also talks about how Master Sam always said that they didn't need people like Rust around. The president tells Rust that he was going to keep him and let him do chores, but now he doesn't need people like him, who does not appreciate the kindness of their association. Finally, Rust bids goodbye and says that he doesn't need their kindness as he exits while shutting the door behind him loudly. As he is walking away, he looks back at the door one last time. He stands in front of a giant painting of a man covered in black clothing, trying to touch what seems to be a dragon with long wings. He bids farewell, thinking he would not be seeing this painting ever again, and thanks everyone for everything. Out under the open sky, he finds a sense of relief and asks if this is what quitting feels like. He continues that it does not feel too bad, because his lease has been cancelled and all his things were with him. He closes his eyes and starts rotating a scroll-like object, and says he can head towards Kalen's dominion right now. The object then opens up into a magical scroll that he has activated. After this, he presses on the magical scroll and manifests a hippopo, to which magical light shoots out from within the scroll. A large riding beast hippopo pops out from out of thin air, to which Rust happily leaps on it. Looking confident, he announces the beginning of his journey towards the borderlands as the large hippopo gallops forward on the open road. A map shows that the dominion of Kalen is developing, and it's in the north of the country. Rust keeps on riding, thinking how a regular chemist like him could be so important. Nevertheless, he contacted her and told her that he'd be under her care, to which she replied that she'd gladly take him in. The hippopo slows down as Rust says that he hasn't been outside in a while. As he looks upon the paved road in front of him, he thinks of all the time he used to come to these parts to get materials. He feels exhilarated from the smell of new flowers sprouting that the wind brought. It all really feels nice. After that, relieved of all the stress, he sets his mind on picking up some ingredients, as he wonders if there's any left near the lake. Suddenly, his hippopo gives the shakes, and its ears flapping really fast, to which Rust thinks this is the sign that something is not right. He keeps riding forward, thinking about how this is the signal that there's an injured person nearby, and right then, he sees someone there. Rust then leaps off the hippopo and tells it to stay alert. He inspects his surroundings and thinks that this could not be a case of a bandit pretending to be injured, because barely anyone passes by this place. After that, he figures out it is a night princess, and judging by this uniform, she's a follower of the goddess of vengeance and thinks that she seems to have a fever. And as Rust touches her, he understands she's unconscious and immediately thinks that the medicinal herbs near the lake could alleviate the fevers and asks if she knows that too. He tries to lift her carefully, thinking he would first need to secure her respiratory tract and check her overall condition. But as he flips her over, he notices a pattern and wonders if this is a curse. He twirls the magical scroll around his fingers and activates it. He instructs the initiation of the transcription, as the magical scroll extends and floats over the lady while she seems to be suffering badly. Rust waves over the scroll and activates display mode, and so it accurately shows the symptoms. He understands that someone put a curse on her as she continues to suffer. He knows it's not an emergency and he'd normally just inform a specialist of her location, but she is suffering at present state. And as Rust inspects further, he points out that the fever is caused by a poison. He sees that there's a wound on her flank, and that's how the poison entered her body. He says that this is a special type of poison, and he doesn't have the right potion to deal with this. He then looks upon the open road in front of the forest, and decides to make a new one with the kit he has. After that, he asks Hippopo to keep a watch over her as he runs forwards. He runs for a while, as he pants and stops on his way from running out of stamina. As Rust sweats, he thinks of how his lack of exercise diminished his stamina, so he pours a stamina potion in his mouth, which immediately replenishes his stamina and makes him not tired. And so, he reaches the lake and sees that there's still some medicinal herbs left. But suddenly, it raises a question in Rust's mind, as he remembers that the area where they grew used to be wider, and wonders if someone have been picking up herbs periodically, and decides to hurry up and take only what he needs. He takes glances upon the different types of plants available. One recovers stamina, one helps regenerate wounds, and the other expels poison. Rust explains that the herbs don't do much by themselves, and their effect doesn't improve that much through normal transmutation into a potion. This means that even if she did reach this place, she wouldn't be able to save herself, but this isn't the case for him. Rust says that he could get some water too, and judging by her condition, a simple transmutation should do the trick. He pulls out a few scrolls and a vial on the other hand, declaring that he would be performing a transmutation which focuses on speed. He extends his hand out and activates each of the scrolls, and then he releases the constraints of gravity and targets 5 elements. After that, Rust points his finger as if he is casting a spell and says purify, to which the scrolls bends around a ball of transmuted water bubble. He narrates that it is the same as he uses to make distilled water. He made a scroll because it would be too much trouble otherwise, and he is actually proud of it, since it is one of the best things that came out of his research. Ultra pure water is beyond normal pure water, and this goes even beyond that, because this is perfectly pure water as the transmutation is underway. And as the elements blend in together, he says that it's really just water and nothing else. But it takes more than just activating a scroll. He needs a few more tricks to make perfectly pure water, but since he's been making 1,000 each day, he's already gotten a lot of practice and could do it even in his sleep. Rust knows that he needs to make adjustments to really bring out its true purity. As the elements float in front of his hands, he thinks how liquids with high degree of purity melt so easily with other things, so if he adds these medicinal herbs to the perfectly pure water to keep the balance of the world, the perfectly pure water destroys the medicinal herbs and eats them. Then, revealing a pure blob of water, he has a highly concentrated potion. Dishing out the 3rd scroll in the air, he fixates, meaning the completed potion is to be enclosed within the world. Again, with another whip, he casts the release spell, and the constraints of gravity now fell partially. And so, a finally made potion with 0 impurities is produced, which is transferred into the glass vial. Rust holds the potion vial and comments that well done as he decides to hurry back to the fallen princess with a wide grin on his face. After that, Rust returns and notices something, that the hippopo is flapping its legs, to which he asks if there is something there. And just then, the hippopo raises its body high up in the sky and tramples the ground very heavily. Rust thinks that Hippopo is acting silly and wonders just what was happening here. He runs towards the hippopo and asks what has happened. And as the beast points on the ground with his leg, Rust gets surprised. He asks Hippopo if this is a familiar and applauds him for doing great. After that, Rust kneels down on the ground and says that it couldn't be a coincidence. Whatever caused this hole has very likely been chasing her, but that threat is now gone. He then sits in front of the unconscious girl and pours the potion on her wound. And so, the skin wound closes up completely and the skin regenerates on it. The girl wakes up and musters up the strength to say something, and then she finally opens her eyes wide. In one quick second, she gets up into a defensive position and immediately goes for the sword, and asks if he is the enemy. Rust points at the hole in the ground and tells her that if she means the familiar, then it's over there. The girl takes a look at the hole and asks Rust who he is, as she is still maintaining the defensive stance. But as Rust almost confesses he's from the association, he suddenly changes his mind and says that he's just a traveling alchemist. He cringes and thinks that old habits can be scary sometimes. He just quit, but the fact that he's unemployed feels very fresh to him. The girl seems astounded to hear about the alchemist, while Rust explains that he took the liberty of healing the external wound, but mentions that the poison is still inside her body. So he hands her the vial of potion, to which the girl thanks him for saving her life, which makes him happy. With tears in his eyes, the girl asks how much this potion would cost her, to which Rust scratches his head in a silly manner and thinks how she misunderstood him, as she is expecting some compensation. And then he reassures her that even though it might sound fishy, he had no ulterior motive behind healing her. He explains he just thought that it would be easier if he heals the wound first and have her willingly drink the potion later. The girl gets relieved hearing that and apologizes for being suspicious. She mentions that it looks like he really did it out of kindness, but adds that she couldn't take the vial of potion for free as it seems very expensive, so Rust offers a proposal. He introduces himself as Rust, a traveling alchemist, who is headed to the borderlands in the north to serve under Kalen, so he suggests her to make a contract, and in their travels, if he ever faces a disaster, he wants to borrow the power of her magic sword. Displaying posh etiquettes, Rust then asks what her name is, which surprises the girl. After that, Rust gives her the potion vial and says that he is lending this to her, to which the girl smiles while introducing herself as Tala, a knight of Aresla, the goddess of vengeance, and the third of the 3 swords, and announces that she accepts the debt. Her sword would be able to cut through any disaster that befalls him. Rust watches it happen with glistening eyes as she swears all of these on her sword. Rust thinks that this happened a lot easier than anticipated, while Tala drinks the potion, and gets surprised after seeing its effects. She unsheathed her sword to take a look at her face, and happily announces that the curse has been lifted. Tala says that she tried different kinds of holy water, but none of them worked, while Rust thinks that lifting the curse is a side effect of the potion. He narrates that the water used was perfectly pure, nothing more than water itself, like the original water created by the gods. The two of them look at each other happily, as he continues that the potion is imbued with a divine element, and its effect is much greater than any holy water. He thinks that he doesn't want to tell her that lifting the curse was basically a side effect, and after looking at the saddle, Rust realizes that he needs to hurry and get to Kalen's domain, as he is sure that she has a lot more questions. After that, he rides ahead and announces that he'll be going now as he has business to attend to. Tala tries to call him from the back, but Rust orders Hippopo to run at full speed and leaves in a hurry. After Rust left, Tala looks at the vial and asks if this is the golden potion. She smiles and realizes that this is indeed the golden elixir, and if so, then she is now indebted to someone incredible. She giggles as she raises the vial, and announces that no matter what disasters this person faces, she will be eager to put her skills to use. She recalls the boy telling her that he would be headed to the borderlands, so she proceeds towards the forest, telling herself that she should exact her revenge, and then quickly head towards north as well. The narrator explains that the basics are the cornerstone in every field. It's a big factor where someone is in a pursuit of results, and in the end, there's not too many who truly understand it. Later that night, Rust tells his Hippopo to rest under the starry sky, and narrates that they've been riding north ever since he said goodbye to Tala. He light a campfire and thinks that it feels refreshing. He recollects about the time he worked in the association, and how all of his nights every day were spent transmuting in the laboratory. The next day, they have reached the location, as Rust tells Hippopo to stop, and says that they came to Toma village. He thinks that the place looks run down, and says that this is basically Kalen's neighboring area. In any case, Rust decides to take a look, and thanks Hippopo for everything, as he sits down and casts the returning spell on it. After that, as Rust is about to enter the village, a black-haired man appears from the back, and asks him who he is. Rust happily greets the man with a smile, and says that he is a traveling alchemist, to which the man gets shocked. He then requests Rust if he could please go with him to talk to the village chief, to which Rust instantly agrees. They wander around in the village as Rust discovers closed shops, spruce gates, and shut wells, and he thinks this place has been abandoned long back. It feels like entire families left. Suddenly, he gets surprised to see a well-conditioned home, and sees that there are kajero branches in the entrance, while the black-haired man tells the chief that he's brought an alchemist with him. An old man came outside and inquires the man if Rust is a real one. The man replies he didn't check that, but the boy looks to be like one, to which Rust reaches for something in his pocket. He pulls out his medallion as proof of him being one, and introduces himself as Rust, a traveling alchemist. The chief then takes a hard look at the medallion through his monocle, and gets surprised to see that. He then introduces himself as the chief of Toma, and says that the medallion does show he is an alchemist, but it also means that he is one of the highest ranks. Rust narrates that a medallion proves one is an alchemist, and determines its rank. But he never really gave much thought into it, as every alchemist in the association has the master medallion, and questions whether it really is the highest rank. He internalized that despite how it was, the association is the leading alchemy organization in the country, so having no reason to hide it, he replies modestly that he is one of the highest ranks. The chief then quickly changes his attitude, and apologizes for any offense, and asks Master Rust if he would like some tea, and mentions there is a matter he wants to discuss. Rust agrees, and thinks that the chief is a knowledgeable person, since he knows how to address a master rank. And he is also sure that whatever the chief wants to discuss is related to the state of this village. After that, they all sit on the dining table, and Rust is offered some tea. Rust thinks that it's great drinking something warm after the long days of eating portable rations, while the chief wastes no time, and asks him if he has any old-style magic crystals. Rust keeps the mug on the table, and replies that he may be able to help him, but he questions why specifically old-style is needed. The chief inquires if he is aware of the total revamp of magic guns that happened during the war a year ago. Rust recollects that Sam from the arms transmutation department bragging about it a year ago, so he replies with a yes. The black-haired man then slams on the table in frustration, and says it was a revamp only in the name. The guns changed from worse to worse, which is a total rip-off, while the chief asks him to calm down. Although the chief says that he is right, and tells him to go get something, to which Rust asks if he could know more about it. After that, there are two magic guns placed on the table. One is new while the other is old. The chief explains that magic guns are vital to people like them, who live in remote regions, and have no knowledge of military arts, so they are indispensable to defend themselves against violent beasts and monsters. But this has been the case until at least a year ago, to which Rust asks if that changed. The chief says that the old magic guns were very fuel efficient and resilient, since they only had to change the fuel, magic crystals every once in a while. As a result, they were wonderful items and truly their best friends. He touches one of the guns and says that the H-32 developed a few years back was especially reliable, in terms of resilience and precision. Looking at the gun, Rust recollects of the time when the Alchemist Association started development of this gun. Master Halhammer spearheaded the project back when he was responsible for the arms transmutation department. He says that the slogan has been peace of mind for soldiers until the very end. With a pleased look in his eyes, he replies that Master Halhammer did a great job, but people criticized its simple sturdiness and low fuel consumption. But in reality, the ones who actually use them hold them in high regard. Then, the black-haired man begins his grim revelation, saying that the R1 on the other hand is sophisticated, but its quality is lower than excrement. The chief adds that even though they improved its power, it breaks very easily and is also prone to accidental discharges. He also says that the weapon's fuel efficiency is terrible, because they have to constantly change the expensive new magic crystals. As the discussion continues, they say that even though the old magic guns have enough power, old-style magic crystals are now very rare. This is because the production stopped when the guns were upgraded. This is now the biggest problem. And so, the black-haired man says that they have no choice but to buy the new R1. But because it's unreliable and expensive for them, they are looking for the old-style magic crystals for their H-32 model guns. He explains that they now fire the guns only when they need to, for saving magic crystals, and when they do, there's a good chance of misfiring or the gun breaking. Because of this, there has been increased casualties in the remote villages. The chief says that everyone moved to safer places with their families, because they are scared. Finally, he asks Rust if he can let them have the crystals, but to his surprise, Rust shyly replies that he doesn't have any with him, to which both the men gets disappointed. But to their relief, Rust tells them that he can make them, to which their jaws drop in shock, and they thank him. Rust gets surprised seeing their reaction, and says that the payment he wants for the crystal is, and asks how about a reasonable amount of Kajero materials. The men look at each other as the black-haired man says that there's an abundance of Kajero growing around, but they're pretty useless. Rust replies if there are a lot of them, then it's great, and thinks that there's an old custom to decorate the door of the village chief's house with Kajero. But lately, less and less villages have been growing Kajero trees. Rust then tells the man to take him there and mentions that their fruits should now be ready for picking. They exit the house as the chief asks Master Rust to follow him, while the villagers wonders who this new person is. Soon, there's a flock of people following them in the back, to which Rust thinks it's expected, as there aren't too many sources of entertainment in a small village, but he notices the lack of children. They reach the Kajero forest, where Rust looks back and politely asks if the villagers could gather Kajero materials, even if from the ground. Hearing this, the chief tells the villagers that since they followed them, they can get some work done and gather Kajero branches and fruits like the alchemist asked, to which they agrees. Soon, a large number of branches and fruits are gathered, and Rust thanks everyone for helping out. He announces that even though magic crystals are usually made from monsters' magic stones, it is not the only way to make them, as he pulls out 3 scrolls. He then opens up the scrolls and activates each of them. A gossip of whispers rages on among the villagers. Some of them ask what these scrolls are, and some answer that master alchemists store their best secret technique in these. They were all amazed to see 3 scrolls in action at the same time. Rust thinks that the villagers know quite a bit about alchemy. Nevertheless, he wants to put on a flashy show for them, even though the process remains the same. He then chants purify, and the alchemical process begins in front of their eyes. Rust narrates that he is going to use his proud creation on the magic elements in the atmosphere. Magic stones taken from monsters are magic elements from the atmosphere solidified after a long time. He thinks that if he can filter them directly from the air, he doesn't need to take them from monsters. These are magic elements in very high concentration. It is obvious the crowd would not know what is happening, since the purification scroll is his creation. And so he thinks, since he is the only one who uses it, this is his crux of transmutation. He then holds a fruit and accurately flings it at the transmutation zone. He states that Kajero fruits are used as materials for a lot of transmutations, and they are especially good at housing magic elements. After that, he chants polish, and a small whirlwind appears on the ground. Gossips spread that the tiny vortex of the tornado looks incredible, to which Rust gets happy from the response. He then says dramatically that if he throws a Kajero fruit with the magic elements in this tornado, and narrates that one of the factors that determines the quality of the magic crystals is how they're cut. Obviously, the polish does more than just create a tornado. Its true substance are the fine particles inside the tornado, which means that he can freely change the density of the diamond dust and the rotation speed while making minute adjustments. Finally, he thinks that it is time to increase the density of the diamond dust as he extends both of his hands. The tornado increases in size, which leaves the females awestruck, and seeing this, Rust thinks that ladies like shiny things no matter where they are from. He internalizes that there are 3 norms when it comes to creating magic crystals. These are size, output, and capacity, so if the size and output doesn't match, then it all fails. The output is determined by how well they are cut. He looks at his hand and contemplates how well he knows the norms of old-style magic crystals, and so he decides not to make them too small. Finally, with one wave of his fingers, he announces it is completed as the scroll fixates. The magical elements are completely sealed inside the Kajero fruit as Rust takes a look at his creation. A fine magic crystal lays in his hand. Magic elements from the atmosphere are given form and processed, and he happily concludes that it is done. Rust then hands out the gun to the chief and asks to check if it fires. So the chief nervously inserts the bullet and pulls the trigger while aiming at the sky. The gun blasts a big projectile shot in the sky as it bursts into a big magical explosion above the clouds, proving that it is pure magical crystal. The whole crowd cheers and celebrates in unison as they can now live without fear. Rust continues making the crystals, and he decides to create all at once. And one after another, the magical crystals pop out as the crowd watches him in awe. After that, he stops and says this is everything, as 5 baskets full of crystals lie in front of him. He thinks that it took him an hour to transmute them all, and it's going to be more of the same. He asks everyone to take them as they were full of magic elements. Rust says that these will last them twice as long as the ones that were in the market, which shocked the chief and the others. He is also surprised to see the numbers, and mumbles that they can't use them all, they need to talk to the feudal lord. He loses composure and says he hasn't been this surprised in all the years he has lived. Also, he didn't know all this is even possible. After this, the chief addresses the black-haired man as Zal and tells him to take everything to the village. While he says that everything is ready, Rust wonders if all these were prepared while he was working, and thinks that it's wonderful how everything went so smoothly. The chief asks another villager to tie Rust's branches with ropes and help carry his things, but Rust replies that he doesn't need it. He does some more magic, while grateful for the fact that the villagers wanted to help him carry his things. He uses polish to make the value of the density of the diamond dust 0, and lifts the pile of Kajero materials with the tornado. The branches float high up in the air. Seeing these, the entire crowd stopped storing the things. The materials were all sucked into Rust's backpack. While he made minute adjustments to release the scroll, the crowd couldn't believe their eyes as they saw all of the branches get stored in the small backpack within a second. After this, Rust tells the chief there is something he wants to talk about, to which the chief instantly agrees. He tells Rust to follow him and instructs Zal to take care of the rest. Rust knows that the chief understands he is going to go somewhere else, and so, if he's this perceptive, it should be okay to talk to him. They sit on the table again with 2 warm mugs of drink. Rust is happy and content from the job well done, and thinks that the drink tasted even more fulfilling. He places the mug on the table and begins the conversation, to which the chief politely obliges. Rust laughingly wonders if he's made the chief nervous, so he tells him to not worry, and asks how things are going to be from now on. And as the conversation continues, Rust asks if there are sufficient crystals to last them a few years, to which the chief confirms, and says that considering the amount, it should at least last them a few decades. And so, the chief says that he is very grateful. Rust inquires with motive if this is the only village in need of old-style magic crystals. To this, the chief replies that everyone in the area is in desperate need for old-style magic crystals. Because of this, Rust says he wants to talk. With a serious look, Rust says that he would like to discuss the possibility of doing business with the new dominion of the night called Kalen, about trading old-style magic crystals. The chief recalls that he heard about Kalen from the lords of this region, and she can blow away 3 heavily armored men with one swing of her sword, and she has been remarkable in the last war too. Despite her thin-looking arms, she is so strong, no one would think she is human. Just when the chief is about to state her nickname, Rust stops him. Rust replies that Kalen is his friend from the academy, and he is going to her new dominion. Also, he doesn't like that inelegant name given to her because it makes her sound non-human, to which the chief apologizes. Rust knows that developing a new dominion comes with its costs, and so he says that he would like to speak with the lord about this in secret. He narrates that generating new sources of income for the Kalen dominion should not be a problem, and besides, he can also do other jobs if Kalen wants him to. So, he schemes to sell old-style magic crystals to the lord in Toma village and smuggle the income back to Kalen's domain. As he drinks, he says he needs to lay the groundwork. Rust narrates that he is sure Kalen and Toma village lord will work out a reasonable deal with reasonable workload. As for the village chief, he has all the magic crystals he needs for the time being, so he gets to offer a few spare ones to his lord, while bringing in a proposal he knows will make him happy. After this, the chief prepares a consent and requests Rust to sign this. And just then, Rust says he wants to send a letter, to which the chief calls for a pen and paper. Rust narrates that he needs to further lay the groundwork and write a letter to another friend of his, who should still be in the army, and this whole case is about magic crystals. He recalls Riholtsam and thinks about how he might stick his nose in this matter as well, but nonchalantly, he says whatever, as he is more concerned about what the army might do. As he writes the letter, Rust narrates, since they started using new magic guns during the war, they should have a very big interest in military equipment. So if a large amount of old-style magic crystals start making its way out in this land, they are sure to come here and put a stop into it. After he is done writing, he says thanks and seals the letter with wax and embeds his medallion on it as the sign. Rust gets up and says he will be on his way now. As the chief offers him to stay the night, he declines. Outside, he gets bombarded with civilian requests for his alchemy. Some ask him to shine their silverware, others ask to turn their iron to gold or trim their weed. Rust is embarrassed from all this popularity, But finally, they all decide to wave him goodbye and show their appreciation. And so, Rust begins his renewed journey towards the borderlands. Then, he sits on top of his hippopo and gazes upon the lush meadows in front of him. He thought that this place was filled with monsters, but he says that it's not as bad as it seems. He narrates that he has never seen most of the living beings in the wasteland in front of him, so he is not sure if they are monsters. Out of nowhere, something runs towards them really fast. While Rust narrates that every single one of them has attacked them, his hippopo slams the thing with his heavy feet. Rust thanks Hippopo and compliments how his sensitivity to hostility is so helpful. He takes a look at what attacked them. Slammed in the ground, he would collect the creature as it could serve as material for something, maybe a waterproof bag or even a harvesting glove. After this, he kneels down and says there are monsters here because regular animals cannot compete with them. But happily, he says that if there's this many monsters he has never seen, it only makes it more fun to do research. Opening up the map, he narrates that according to the map, he should be reaching a body of water, and from there it's only a short way to Kalen's place. Riding on, he soon finds the body of water. He then tells Hippopo that they should take a break, and wonders if there are different monsters near the water. And just then, Hippopo warns him as he alertly sees flutter magic elements in the pond. With a gust of wind hitting his face, a little lizard is revealed. Rust comments that the lizard has a rare color, but just then, something splashes out of the water just like before. He ducks and dodges the attack, and realizes that it is a tentacle from some creature. Rust wonders if this creature from the pond is after the lizard, and then their eyes meet as the lizard seems tearful. Rust contemplates that even though it looks like a child, it's clearly a monster, and just because it looks like a child does not mean it is one. He continues thinking that it could look like that, only so the enemy gets careless. After all, nature's law suggests that it is survival of the fittest among monsters. And so, even though he can't help feeling sorry for it, Rust orders Hippopo to attack. After this, the large beast leaps from the ground high up in the air. His shadow completely covers the small lizard. And finally, Hippopo body slams on the ground. It seems that Hippopo tore off that tentacle with his heavy legs as the wonder tentacle slides back in the pond, to which Rust thanks Hippopo and proceeds to wear his gloves. He touches the back of the lizard and thinks it's not, even though it is not responding. Then, Rust picks up the greasy tentacle remainder off of the ground, thinking he would use this as material for something. After this, he opens up his alchemy scrolls with chance of activate, initiate transcription and display. The scroll hovers over the injured lizard. He scans the scroll diagnostic and says he could not read it very well and wonders deeply if there is a lock that is preventing him from reading. Rust figures out that he could read it from here, and he sees that it's suffering from extreme fatigue. He says that maybe its mitochondria were working at full capacity, so it declined. While he instructs Hippopo to stay alert, he has already plunged down in the pond, and Rust thinks that he cannot make the best possible potion for this lizard. And so, it is best to use a simple potion, while Hippopo fights the tentacle monster in the back. Rust uses his alchemy and creates the potion, as Hippopo brings him the tentacle monster in his mouth. Then, Rust pours the potion on the injured lizard, and inspects on his scroll that the level of activity of its mitochondria has clearly improved, and it's on the level of an average human, but it is not waking up. He wonders if the lizard's maximum value is too high. Seeing this, Hippopo nudges his head against the injured lizard. He narrates that it's rare for Hippopo, who is so sensitive to enmity and malice, to be so forgiving. So, this lizard might not be a simple monster, but in any case if he leaves here, his efforts to save it will have been for nothing. A body of water in the middle of a wasteland is going to have a lot of monsters around it. Also, there is a good chance that new monsters are going to come now that the catfish with tentacles is gone. Finally, he sympathizes with the lizard, thinking it will die if he leaves. Seeing the injured lizard, he asks Hippopo if they should take it with them. He gets on the saddle and says after reading the map that they should follow the river connected to the pond, directed to the X mark. Then, he sees a medium encampment out in the middle of the meadows and asks if this could be Kalen's camp. But just then, Hippopo rubs the ground with its feet, to which Rust becomes alert. Suddenly, a leg appears in front of him, to which Rust displays his medallion and introduces himself. He declares that he is a master-ranked alchemist. His sect is one that centers around gathering those in search of truth. He has come to this land after being invited by the knight Kalen, and so he awaits their reception. Out of the sand, two young lady knights reveal themselves. Their eyes were hidden with handkerchiefs. This shocked Rust, as someone holding a spear addresses Master Rust and says he is welcome. She says that there are monsters in this area that mimic humans, and so they were to be excused for meeting him in this manner. Rust understands what Hippopo was warning him about, because if they got any closer, they would have been within their attack range. He compliments their superb hiding technique and asks if those clothes are magic items made via transmutation. They acknowledge how easily Rust noticed them while they were in hiding. One of them says that she can see why Lady Kaylin proudly says Rust is not just an ordinary person, and the other replies that these are not normal clothes. Seeing the handkerchiefs on their faces, Rust thinks that these clearly resemble magic items, and so he wonders what the story behind these could be. One of the two ladies strikes the ground with her staff and inquires whether it's a monster on the back of the riding beast. The other one tells her to stop, and while addressing her as Roa, she mentions that they couldn't defeat Master Rust and his riding beast. Roa gets shocked hearing her sister Ari's words and agrees to her. Ari then apologizes on behalf of her younger sister, while Rust is glad to have avoided a pointless fight, as he really didn't want to get in trouble immediately after reaching his new post, so he shyly responds that it is okay. He narrates if they have some sort of special ability related to their vision. The younger sister can probably see far away, and saw them coming. The elder sister can probably see people's strength, so he thinks the lizard has rung some bells. He displays his medallion once again, and comforts the sisters saying he understands, and that he would take responsibility for this lizard. One of the sisters thanks him for his lenient words, and asks him to come with them, as they would take him to Lady Kaylin. After this, one of the sisters directs him towards a tent. Rust enters while asking to excuse him, and sees groups of people working on some vast alchemic mechanism. As one of them orders her subordinate to send info quickly, they have a return from point D, and points A and G are not connecting even after the 5th retry. Seeing this, Rust knew immediately that this is the latest model communication device, and so information must be consolidated in the headquarters. Just then, a shadowy figure calls him out from a room nearby. It is Kaylin in all her glamour, and she is really happy to see Rust as she approaches him, to which he also gets happy. With glowing eyes, Kaylin says that she has been waiting for Rust and immediately grabs his hand, which slightly hurts him, but he notices the electrochemistry right away. Kaylin laughs while shaking his hand and talks about how long it has been since they saw each other, and tells him he has gotten older. Rust tells Kaylin this is none of her business, but fixes his mistake and addresses her as Lady Kaylin right then. Kaylin says she is sure Rust has had no problem reaching the borderlands, and asks him if he had trouble with the two she sent to welcome him. And as soon as he hears that, he questions the welcoming nature of the two sisters while looking at them, which makes them nervous. He narrates that she thinks if there is going to be a problem between him and the people there, it might as well be with these sisters, and thinks that Kaylin has been always like this, who purposefully causes conflict right at the start to build a relationship from there. Rust scratches his head while thinking he had no intention of causing trouble anyway, so he replies he has had no problems so far. Kaylin gladly says this is good to hear. She invites Rust to head towards the mechanism and instructs everyone to take a break. Afterwards, Kaylin says that they don't have a table, so she improvised as she grabs onto something, and a large box falls out of nowhere, to which Rust thinks that she has not changed at all. Kaylin sits down while saying that it's better and asks the sisters to bring them some tea. After that, she gets down to business sitting across Rust, as her elbows placed on the large wooden box. Rust laughingly asks since she has asked everyone to leave, he assumes there is trouble, to which Kaylin compliments his instinct, and says that he catches on quickly. Then, Rust playfully asks if there really is any trouble, since he thinks he is going to take it easy and help develop this land, like relaxing and drawing magic elements from the ground. Kaylin replies that this is important too, because they have to draw magic elements or crops will not grow, but she wouldn't have asked for his help just for this. Kaylin calls him the genius from the academy. To this, Rust narrates that this is the nickname she gave her back in the day, but he tells her to stop playing and asks what she really wants from him. Kaylin then gets serious and tells Rust that she wants him to first treat the disease spreading throughout this camp and investigate its origin. She also says that they have prepared a tent for him and he could use it as he wishes, to which Rust replies he understood, and then steps out immediately. Outside, he narrates that this being an endemic disease means more or less that people start showing symptoms after coming to this camp, and so he should start by confirming what symptoms these are. The people in this area were glaring at him. He continues narrating that these stares are deadly, and so he must earn the trust of the people here, in addition to finding a solution to the disease, because the people are really wary of him. Then, he initiates by saying hello. The Knight's sisters show him his tent, while Rust thinks that he is glad to have met these two. But then, one of the sisters says that she still has not accepted him. While leaving, Roa says that she would not forgive him if he embarrasses Lady Kaylin, but Ari asks her to calm down. Rust seems slightly scared of the aura coming from Roa and thinks that he takes back what he said. He then enters the tent and pets Hippopo, saying it's a nice gesture because they gave him a tent for one, and narrates that the size of the tent shows how much she values him and how big her expectations are. But this can also be because he is important to her dominion, and it's a message for everyone to see. Afterwards, Rust says that there is no furniture inside the tent and the ground is bare, which is expected of Kaylin as she really knows him well. So he whips out his alchemist scrolls and prepares to get everything ready before Ari and Roa start bringing in the patients. After this, he chants the Purify spell and narrates that if he uses Purify on carpet, it gains simple protection against water and dirt. Leaving the injured lizard on the carpet, he searches his kit and then extending his arm, he chants the spell of manifesting rose. A little rose appears on the ground. He narrates that even though it looks like a plant, it's actually a transmuted beast just like Hippopo. Then, he orders the rose to make a bed for the little lizard, and instructs it to be a sturdy one. A couple of vines pop out of the flower. In a second, the vines multiply extraordinarily, and transform into a cradle bed holding the injured lizard. Rust is pleased, and so he tells the flower to do the standard type on this tent. As the plant beast does its work, he narrates that this would improve insulation and airflow. Next, a bed frame, a desk, a chair, and a table for experiments is ready. Rust stands tall and embraces his glory, saying Rose is a transmuted beast, who he has created when he was just a student. He recollects of the time when they went on field work investigations and were away for a long time, when other students of the same class started hanging around too, which he felt was annoying. So in order to find some privacy, he figures out this environment. Then, a figure appears outside of his tent and tells him that she brought a patient, to which Rust allows them to come in, as he is now ready for his job. Rust does his job diligently, saying he would make the potions that are adequate for their symptoms. Each patient came in with different issues, some complaining about a lethargic body, others getting tired easily, and some with heavy legs. But for Rust it seems that he could finish diagnosis and treat the patients in the same day. He narrates that he would treat the people as provisional countermeasures and hopes the symptoms could lead him to finding the cause. Meanwhile, he would still have the time to investigate. But just as he was about to finish his thought, he encountered someone in the list who felt a numbness in his right hand that has been persisting since last night. Rust gets alarmed and says he understands the possibility of the numbness. He narrates while checking the diagnosis scrolls that there might be after effects, so he is going to be touching it a little. Because this could be more trouble than he thought, it is going to be a matter of speed. Afterwards, Ari calls on Roa to bring in the next patient as night falls. Roa says this is the last patient and compliments Rust for treating the patients so quickly, to which he thanks her. The patient complains that he feels tired and some numbness in his limbs, to which Rust replies that he will transmute a potion to make him feel all better, and he would observe its effects after the patient drinks it. He narrates while creating the alchemic potion that he just reads their status and prepares semi-custom potions for each patient. This is all he is doing, just treating the symptoms. And so, he hands out a bottle of potion to the patient, thinking that he has to hurry and determine exactly what is causing this issue, because some people might be left with after effects if their treatment is delayed. After drinking the potion, the boy jumps up in joy, waving his hand around, saying he can move his hands. He exclaims joy and thanks the doctor. Rust says this is great to hear, but internally he thinks he isn't a doctor, and recalls how no one in the association appreciated his potions. Finally, Rust thanks Roa for the work she has done today, and she replies begrudgingly that this is her job. Rust hands out a vial of potion and tells her that she and Ari could have this potion which relieves fatigue, to which Roa gets surprised. Roa asks when Rust had the time to prepare this, and before she could finish the sentence, Rust confirms he did it in between patients. Roa gets impressed, and before Rust could say anything, she swiftly rushes out of the tent after thanking him. Rust says that it will not be easy to break the ice with Roa, so he decides to be more patient. Then he wraps up for the night. He narrates that he would need to write an interim report for Kaylin, checking the notes he took while treating the people, and a scroll where he transcribed the patients' histories. He only writes the results of treatments, and only summarizes what he knows about the origin of the disease. And then he walks out of his tent while thinking that he should take this opportunity to talk about the magic crystals. Then, he faces two men standing and smiling at him, who thanks for the treatment earlier. They say that he managed to treat everyone within half a day, and they could expect this from Lady Kaylin's old friend. Rust narrates that earlier today these people were sizing him up, but now that he has contributed to the community, he is receiving gratitude, so he keeps on walking while telling them to take care. As he approaches a big tent, he proudly introduces himself as the Alchemist, who is here to report the treatment. He asks the man to tell Kaylin something but gets interrupted, as Kaylin from the inside tells him to come in. She happily turns back and asks Rust what he wants so late in the night. Rust submits the simple report, telling Kaylin that the patients have been treated, which surprises Kaylin as it only took him a half day. Shyly, she says that Rust is still irresistible, which means it is wonderful of him. Kaylin scans the report thoroughly and asks about the potential of them having some after effects. But she looks bewildered and grateful as she thanks Rust for saving her people. Rust happily narrates that even though Kaylin says so little, it's full of gratitude, and replies that he is glad to fulfill his duties. Then, as Rust reconfirms how everyone in this place is his colleague, his stomach lets out a loud growl. She laughs hearing that, and tells Rust that they should get something to eat, as she's sure that he didn't even eat anything. And so, she orders 2 light meals. The two of them gossip and laugh as Rust says that he has only eaten portable rations in between patients, to which Kaylin says that he is a master alchemist now, so he should not eat those grass bricks. Wiping the tears of her eyes, she says that she hasn't laughed like this in a while. Kaylin says that she wants to know more about the diagnosis while they wait for the food, so Rust begins explaining. The next morning, Rust sees that the white lizard is still fast asleep. He walks out of his tent and finds the 2 soldier sisters passing around. He thinks about how long these 2 have been standing here, then he greets them good morning and expresses gratitude for staying with him last night, before asking them how they felt this morning. Roa replies that they were very well thanks to him, and Ari also thanks for the potions he gave to Roa. They says that a single mouthful has been enough for their fatigue to vanish, because its effects are incredible. Rust couldn't see their expressions, but is convinced that they sound happy. Then, they say that Lady Kaylin has asked them to accompany Rust again today, and they were ready to show him around. So they ask where Rust wants to go, to which Rust begins thinking. After a moment, Rust replies that he wants to go where the food is stored, to which they agrees and tells him to follow them. But just then, Rust asks them to wait a second before they go, and immediately manifests Beast Hippopo. The large beast pops out of thin air in front of the 2 sisters, while Rust thinks that they look interested in riding it. Then after riding for a while, they reach the food storehouse of Kaylin's domain. The 2 sisters call the person who is responsible for the storehouse. Seeing this, Rust narrates that the food storehouse in a semi-basement was probably a reworked monster's nest. And this is logical because construction materials are valuable. Then, he looks at Hippopo and asks it to tell him if it finds anything. And so, he takes a look at his kit bag and activates a scroll. He pulls out the pendulum dowsing, hanging by his index finger as he looks intently while extending his arm out. Rust narrates that the pendulum is a tool to measure magical elements. It gives the reading by how wide it swings, and the information that he gets from the pendulum is shared with the transcribed scroll. He says that he would first go around the food storehouse. He bends on one knee and sees that the pendulum is swinging quite a bit. Seeing this, he narrates that the ground is highly concentrated, so germs couldn't survive when magic is so thickly concentrated, meaning this is ideal sterilization, and then he proceeds to touch the ground. Looking sideways, he spots Rao mimicking him on the ground, while Hippopo seems to be sniffing some grass. Then, Rust points the pendulum at a rock wall, as Roa too keeps a keen eye on the pendulum. He thinks how everywhere he looks is highly concentrated, and nothing seems out of the ordinary. Food is usually stored in half a basement, not just because it's cold and dark, but also because the highly concentrated magic elements in remote regions kill germs, so it is definitely the standard method. He figures that germs specific to this region couldn't possibly enter people's bodies via food, because the food seems carefully sterilized. But he thinks that germs could still be present from the monster which has lived here in the past, so he asks Roa what kind of monster used to live here, and she replies that it was a bear. As they converse, Rust asks what kind of bear used to be here and what it was like, but just then someone arrives. It is Ari, as she introduces the man who is in charge of managing their food supply, while the man looks pleasantly surprised to see Rust. Rust says that it's nice to meet him, while the man keeps on approaching him, and thanks Rust for helping his younger brother, which surprises him. The man says that the limb numbness his brother has been feeling was really bringing him down, and they really owe him, as he grabs on Rust's hand in delight. With a lot of gratitude in his eyes, he tells Rust he would do everything in his ability to help him. Rust figures out which patient his little brother was, so he happily says thanks too. Rust then asks if he could look around inside the food storehouse, to which the man asks if this is all he wants. He dangles the pendulum off of his finger and inspects the surroundings inside the storehouse. Placing his face on his hand, Rust thinks that everything from meat taken from animal-type monsters to vegetables and cereals taken from plant-type monsters is very well processed. He narrates that it is all well preserved, and he does not find any poison or residue from the previous monster who lived there, and then he tells the man to shut it off. After they get out, Rust asks Hippopo if he found anything important, but he maintained a disappointed face, which means no, to which Rust thanks him for the hard work. Then, Ari asks if the disease originated from there, but Rust replies that he is not 100% sure, so they should keep on searching. Roa asks what they are going to do next, to which Rust takes out an alchemic scroll and says that they are going to have a look somewhere, as he points at a direction with the scroll. The sisters turn their heads towards the town water jug, which is a manual mechanism that purifies water jugs for drinking water. He narrates that this jug stores water to drink and cook, but it is limited, so each station only gets a portion. He runs his diagnosis and sees that even though the magic item itself is old, the purification feature is working properly. Besides, he does not see any component that could be a problem. Having checked the jug, he narrates that even though he thought the numbness could be a cause of ingestion of poison, he found nothing investigating the food and water. While he thinks a way for a possible solution, Roa asks if they could take a break for lunch. She steps too close to Rust while asking questions, which startles him, and then she mentions that he has a tendency of not listening to people when he is too focused on something, and he agrees. But something catches Rust's eye. He feels that the way the sisters asked for the break was a little fishy and unnatural. He steps in and asks if Kaylin ordered them to keep him well fed while they follow him, to which the sisters gives no answer, which proves him right. Rust scratches his head shyly and reassures he knows how to take care of himself. He recalls the time when Kaylin used to shove food in his mouth when he was too busy doing research in the academy, and then he agrees to eat, to which the sisters let out a sigh of relief. They point to the camp's cafeteria, where other men were sitting too. Rust takes a seat along Hippopo, while one of the sisters educate him on how food made from one of the tents is carried over here. While the sisters go to grab their food, Rust asks Hippopo if he is hungry and drops a potion of finely ground magic stones on a glass hexagon. Hippopo meal is ready, which is pellets made from grass, as transmuted beasts can suffer from excess or deficiency of magic elements. Rust looks content, seeing his adored beast feast away in its meal while the sisters get back with food. Looking at the food, Rust thinks it's a simple menu, even though he feels the chef tried to improve its flavor just a little bit. The main dish is smoked monster meat, with Kajero wood chips for smell and savor. The staple food is finely crushed dried cereals, and finally, the side dish is edible stems and fruits of monster plants with monster oil, which is flavored in strong spices since the ingredients have a strong taste. Rust asks if everyone eats here, to which Rower replies that all single people do it there, but people with families eat at their places. Rust looks around and feels as though the cafeteria is a lot similar to what they had back in the academy. Even during their munching session, Rust insists on playing around with his scrolls, which annoys the sisters. He takes a deep look in his scroll and tries to figure something out, but he sees the two sisters and feels even through their clothes that they're staring at him like they want to tell him something. So, Rust asks them if the two of them see anything common between all the patients or heard of any new cases today. But Roa tells him that he should stop working while he's eating. Rust agrees, and they reply that they have not seen commonalities nor heard of any new cases yet. Rust thanks Roa for the answer, but right then, he says not all of them are single and compliments Roa's intuitiveness anyway. Roa replies that she's brought them from the tent of singles, but Rust is determined to find something fishy, so he asks Ari if really a lot of people ate there. Just when Ari agrees, Rust casts a transcription and display chant as he flicks a cloth over his head. The scroll now floats directly above the food and is providing a diagnosis. Right then, he says he has found it, as his eyes glow mesmerically. He orders the sisters to stop eating, while he thinks there is no doubt about it, as he looks at his diagnosis scroll. Rust says it's a trace amount, but its a point belongs to a monster which affects the nervous system, which matches the symptoms. He looks hard trying to figure out where he has seen this composition before. Roa shouts and tells everyone to stop eating the food. As the people look back at her with worry, she announces that there is a chance that the food may contain poison. Finally, Rust has finally found the revelation, and says it is here. He knew that he has seen it somewhere before. While he investigates, those around him wait eagerly, then ask if Master Rust discovered something yet. Rust closes up his scroll and says that he has the answer, while he narrates that a lot of the patients came from the tent for singles, but there is not a problem with the purification in the jug where water is stored, and since some of them uses this cafeteria, this could only mean one thing. Rust then notices someone coming, and asks Roa who the person is, but before Roa answers, the lady replies that she is responsible for overlooking the kitchen, and asks Rust if there is any problem with the food. Rust apologizes for having to summon her here suddenly, and introduces himself as the alchemist who is investigating the disease under Lady Kaylin's order. He then asks the lady if he could examine the kitchen, and thinks that if his theory is correct, he should be able to find some evidence in the kitchen. They enter the kitchen, and Rust performs his routine checkup in his diagnostic scroll. He asks Roa if she could send a message to Lady Kaylin right away, as he needs to get something done. Rust has a confident look in his eyes, and asks them to meet in Lady Kaylin's tent in an hour's time, and there he would explain everything to them. They meet up an hour later, with both the kitchen and singles tent personnel attending. Kaylin begins the conversation, stating Master Rust has solved the epidemic. Rust begins explaining the origin of the disease, and mentions that there is a lake upstream from the river, and there lives a monster containing poison that affects the nervous system. Kaylin replies that they use the water from the river. The jug that stores the water should be purifying it, and even though it's old, it should purge the poison, to which Rust confirms that water in the jug is indeed being purified. Then he states that the problem lies in the water used domestically, to which Kaylin replies she sees. Rust clears further that water from the river is being used directly to wash tableware and clothes, and just when he investigated the tent for singles, he found trace amounts of poison from the monster in tableware and clothing that had been washed. Finally, he says that this very small amount of poison enters the body through the skin and especially through the mouth, and it accumulates and causes the disease, to which Ari understands why there were so many patients from the singles tent. The lady responsible for the kitchen expresses her deepest regret, while the singles tent personnel also takes responsibility, as the both of them clearly look ashamed. But Kaylin raises her hand and tells them no. She mentions that she is the one who decided to divide the purified jug water evenly, because they had to ration it, as the jug water is limited. She tells them this is not their fault. After this, she declares that they have work to do, starting from re-evaluating how the purified water gets distributed to every facility, and they have to defeat the monster living upstream in the lake, because it is the main source of the poison. But Rust pulls out the defeated monster from his kit bag, and says he has already done the job, while trying to save the white lizard. All the people present get surprised, while he scratches his head and tells them that it was not by intention, to which Kaylin asks if he can see the future. She summarizes that he treated all the patients within one night, and found the origin of the disease, and even took down the monster that caused it. Roa comments that this is beyond normal standards, to the point of offensiveness. Then, Rust says that even though the monster has been taken out the day before, they should not be using the water from the river without purification for a while. In addition, they should dispose of the water they have been using to clean. He also says that since the source of the poison is gone, the water should be safe to use again in a few days. Then he asks Hippopo if this was the only monster from the pond, to which Hippopo agrees. After this, Rust bows his head in obedience, and reports that he completed the task of treating the patients and removing the source of the disease. Kaylin looks very pleased and raises her hand in high regard. Kaylin declares that his work regarding this issue has been remarkable, and it far exceeded her expectations. He has her humble gratitude. Rust is happy. He says that the disease was caused by the accumulation of very small quantities, and so there might be more people getting sick. He adds that he would continue treating people if their condition changes, and asks Kaylin to tell everyone to come to him if they feel something is wrong, to which she happily agrees. Rust found this to be a good opportunity to try asking something from her. He proposes that he could expand the jug with the purification feature if she plans on doing so, and he could do it for her if she had the budget. Finally, Kaylin happily says that she would see to it, and just like that, Rust narrates that the curtain to his first mission closes. And now, he could fully enjoy his life here in the Borderlands, even though he is not actually that optimistic. But at this time, he still has no way of knowing just what is going on back in the Alchemist Association. The next morning, Roa calls on Ari and asks her what she thinks about Master Rust. She narrates that they are currently in an alley in the capital known as Porcelain Street, and their goal is to procure a water jug which Master Rust ordered. Ari says that from the first time she saw him, she felt that Master Rust had a lot of fighting power. She and her sister wouldn't even inflict a dent, even if they attacked together. In addition to that, even the large transmuted beast was too much to handle. She is certain that Roa and she are the two strongest people under Lady Kaylin, and she assumes that this is leading Roa to have some mixed feelings about Master Rust. It must be admiration for his power, or even jealousy. Ari narrates that she has a lot of pride that comes with all the training they have done, but also an interest in the Alchemist, with a totally different type of power than theirs. Ari questions if she should admonish her younger sister for her attitude, or is it just that she can't do it. Ari asks Roa if this store would have what they need, and thinks that deep down, she might also be feeling what Roa is feeling, which is the fact that she is bottling up inside. They decide on purchasing what they found, then they walk out of the store while thinking about what magic item store Rust told them to go next. And then Ari calls on Roa to ask something. She narrates that the air in this part of town feels very tense in comparison to Porcelain Street, as she is seeing a lot of passers-by with a heavy-looking expression. But she announces that this is not malice, to which Roa agrees. Roa says she thinks it's some sort of tension, and tells her that they should just head to the next store, and thinks they must be feeling tense because there were too many shops in the area. They burst open a door to a shop, where a long-haired woman greets them welcome, and asks if they are looking for something. While Ari thinks that the store has the youthful appearance that Master Rust has told them about. There are many magic items, but upon closer inspection, the empty spaces on the shelves stand out to them. Ari says that they have something to sell, to which the woman asks who sent them there. Ari narrates that the woman is looking at them like she is sizing them up, and this could be because they are not dressed as alchemists. After that, Ari takes out a rolled paper and a vial of liquid, to which the woman starts reading it. She places 4 stones on each corner of the paper and flattens the paper out. Then, she spots the sigil of an alchemist medallion on one corner, to which she says that this is Master Rust's seal, and asks if they are on an errand for him. Ari says yes, and tells her that Master Rust told them to sell it there, to which the woman replies of course, and informs them that high-quality magic potions are hard to come by these days. She holds the vial of potion up, and tells that Master Rust's potions are always particularly good, and she would gladly buy it, but there is a condition. Roa asks what, to which the woman sits up straight, and replies that the parchment says that it should be sold at a regular price. Ari says that these are Master Rust's instructions, and asks what the problem is, to which the woman replies that there isn't a problem, and all items related to alchemy has recently shot up in price, and so for some reason, the supply of products from the association has fallen behind by a lot. So she points out that this potion could be sold for many times the regular price. Roa thinks that this level of honesty is very rare for a merchant, and she understands why Rust said they could trust this place, and tells the lady that the regular price would do. The woman gladly replies she understood, and tells them to hang by while she gets the money. As the 2 sisters wait in the room, the woman returns with a bag full of money, and expresses how big it is. As the sisters exit, they were surprised to see how much they received as regular price, but they should have expected it from his potion, and says that they should use this money for their travel expenses. Suddenly, Ari calls on Roa, and asks her if she wants to go grab a bite of something nice, to which Roa immediately nods her head yes. They sit delightfully in a restaurant, and feast on some delicious food, while Ari narrates that this is what led to their errand that day. She continues that Lady Kaylin had called for healers half a day before Rust arrived, but they all gave up. Everyone ran away out of fear of catching the disease themselves, and rumors began to spread originating from the healers, which led to doctors from other guilds rejecting them problematically. And just then, Rust suddenly arrives, almost as if he stumbled upon it. She says that she and Roa did exactly as Kaylin said, as they split up and took patients to Master Rust, even when some of them couldn't walk due to numbness in their limbs, while some felt hazy due to fever. They looked for these people and took them to Rust's tent, and one after the another, each of them left looking well. And finally, he not only finished treating them really fast, but also soon found the cause of the disease, all while not mentioning that he killed the monster who caused all of it beforehand. Rust appears to be a very special person to her, even as an alchemist, so she says that they might be able to ask Master Rust to do something about their eyes. And as soon as Roa hear her say that, she stopped eating. The sisters look at each other through the clothes on their faces and quietly nod at each other. Meanwhile, at the Alchemist Association, Riholtsam couldn't believe his eyes after seeing the condition of the Alchemist Association Equipment Vault Special Storage. He shouts why he has to do all these, it stinks. He angrily says that it's all Rust's fault for quitting all of a sudden, and how he was not as devoted or thankful enough to the Alchemist Association. For some reason there was some trouble involving the Alchemist Association during this time, and so all Master Alchemists had to leave their jobs to deal with it. As he is stuck here with odd jobs, he narrates that many things in the special vault were dangerous and needed to be handled with care. Some monster materials would even explode without proper maintenance. He recalls that there used to be an administrator that managed this place, but he was fired due to budget cuts, and the basic research department took over. Then, the basic research department was disbanded, which led to dangerous materials getting neglected, ultimately leading to problems materializing in the form of explosions caused by the thick fluid of scavenger slime. He exclaims stressfully that entry is restricted because there are Class 1 hazardous materials that only someone with a master rank can handle, so if it wasn't for this rule, he could have had underlings deal with this instead. But just then, someone screams his name and tells them they have some trouble. It is Tordek, and as Riholtsam says that he is busy, she replies that it's urgent, as the vice president of the Arms Association is screaming. She says that he is being called on, to which he angrily instructs her to tell one of the master ranks to finish up there when he or she returns. As Riholtsam walks on with his stink, Tordek says that she is a newbie, so she doesn't have the authority to ask a master rank to come clean this mess. Moreover, she doesn't even know when one would come back. As she is left behind, she decides to close the door for now, before magic elements get out in the atmosphere, so she tries some magic. But to her surprise, it gets restricted, because she can't close the door here without a master rank medallion. She gives up and leaves the room, while deciding to go to the association's entrance and wait for someone to come back. Meanwhile, the vice president of the Arms Association, Gon, angrily asks how long a certain someone plans on keeping him waiting, as they are already past the appointed date. The attendee replies that as he has already explained numerous times, the supply of basic materials for transmutation has fallen behind, to which Gon replies that he has heard this already, but it's not his problem. He says that the date is very clearly stipulated in the contract. This equipment is to be delivered to the army and to be used in the next war, so he questions how much longer would it take. He tells him to not think that they can get away with a penalty for breach of contract if they don't deliver soon. Gon screams at him to call Riholtsam at once and asks how much longer would it take, but just then, someone knocks at the door. Riholtsam frightenedly apologizes to Gon for keeping him waiting, but Gon and the other boy gets irritated by the putrid smell. Riholtsam asks if Gon needs something from him, but he clenches his nose shut and tells him to not approach him. Gon looks petrified, wondering what is going on, and if it's normal for a prestigious master alchemist to show up to see an important business partner while releasing this foul smell, as he tells Riholtsam to not come any closer, which startles him. Riholtsam sniffs of his overcoat and asks himself if this is the scavenger slime, but he did freshen up with just a deodorant spray, while Gon shouts if he is trying to make fun of him. Gon bombards him with a stream of insults, to which Riholtsam says he is very sorry, and he would go change immediately. But Gon says that he will wait no longer, and asks when he will deliver what he promised, to which he takes a moment to remember what the promise was. Riholtsam looks at the boy named Tsubasa and asks how it is going, but he clenches his nose harder from the smell, to which Riholtsam misunderstood and thinks that it's an yes. Riholtsam then shamefully replies that they would have everything ready by tomorrow, which shocks Tsubasa in the process. Gon gives the ultimatum and tells him not to forget what he just said, to which Tsubasa thinks that they are in big trouble, because it is impossible to finish it by tomorrow. After some time, in the Arms Alchemy Department laboratory, some people are talking among each other, asking if all the apprentice alchemists are there, and even the ones who were on their day off were summoned by Master Riholtsam. Rihaltsam tells Tsubasa that they need to deliver magic circuits that change attributes to the Arms Association, to which he agrees, and says that they ordered magic circuits that change magic elements to the elements of fire. And apparently the army ordered fire-type weapons from the Arms Association. Rihaltsam asks then why the delivery is so late, because this is nothing new for them, to which Tsubasa explains that they don't have enough distilled water, especially high-quality distilled water for solutions that they use when they write circuits into the boards. Rihaltsam gets pissed hearing that, and asks how the most basic thing like distilled water runs out so easily, because this is one of the first things alchemists learn to make, and even a student is capable of making it. The apprentices gossip and whisper, and just then Tordake walks in the room. She hands him the device to check the operations of magic circuits, and says that this is a board made with distilled water that they transmuted. Rihaltsam snatches it from her hand, and asks what the problem is. He jams the circuit in the device, and confirms there are enough magic elements in the crystal, so now he activates it to convert the magic elements into flames. But the device only produces fumes, to which Rihaltsam seems frightened and confused at the same time, as he says that this doesn't even have enough power. Tsubasa explains that the emission of magic elements is not stable, to which Tordake too agrees. They says that they could really use Master Rust's distilled water to create solutions at the very least. In addition to that, they could also use it to clean up around here, which anger Rihaltsam even more. He screams at the apprentice group to not speak that detestable name, to which the group understands that Rihaltsam's jealousy towards Master Rust is off the charts. Finally, Rihaltsam says that he would make distilled water which is a lot better than Rust's, and orders them to finish the magic circuits quickly. A few hours later, Rihaltsam asks how well his distilled water is, while Tsubasa looks at a paper and says he would need to check the values measured by the device, but Rihaltsam angrily says that the values sure are above the norm. Tsubasa reads the report, and narrates that the results are barely above the norm and couldn't even cut the safety margin, which increases the risk of lowering the quality of the product, and if an accident were to occur it would damage the association's credibility. He thinks that looking at these values really makes him see how good Master Rust's distilled water is, and not to mention that Rihaltsam took way too long to transmute it. But he is afraid of what would happen to him if he says it out loud, so he announces that the values are up to standard. Rihaltsam then orders the apprentice group to keep it coming, to which they all agrees. An hour to midnight remains. Tordake sits idly and comments that she is tired and it's too late, but she feels like she is forgetting something. And just then, an explosion blasts open the door behind her, to which she wonders if it could be the slime. She narrates that since the vault door is open, the slime must have absorbed the magic elements in the atmosphere and started moving. The place reeks already. Shouts erupt everywhere inside the building, saying that the explosion is melting the door, which could mean that it's the scavenger slime, and it gets bigger the more it eats. Tsubasa shouts to attack it with something as he grabs the magic circuit checker and splashes the slime attack with its magic, thinking that it should work. Rihaltsam shouts at them to stop and to be careful, because that wooden box has magic circuits that they need to deliver. In the midst of all this, Rihaltsam slips on something and falls straight into the slime pit, while the apprentices watch as he gets absorbed in the enlarged slime vortex. They look at each other in surprise and thinks of what they should do, while some clench their nose for the smell. In count of 3, they grab on Rihaltsam's feet and yanks him out of the slime vortex. The swollen, disgusting Rihaltsam sits in front of them, with most of his clothes torn apart from the slime attack, and is giving off an ungodly wretched reek. After some time, the apprentices work together to quickly deal with what's left, while some of them wonder where Rihaltsam is, but decides to just leave him. By nightfall, they somehow manage to finish their work, and then someone still asks where Master Rihaltsam went, to which another replies that he left all slimy. After that, Tsubasa calls upon Skinny and tells her to deliver the magic circuits to the Arms Association first thing in the morning, as this is very important. She stands upon the crates full of goods and asks if this is all she needs to take, to which Tsubasa replies that she could use a transmuted beast to transport them. Meanwhile, in Kalen's territory, she narrates that her morning starts really early. She especially loves a good meaty steak first thing in the morning. In any case, she eats well after waking up, but the food there is limited. She trains with her subordinates and is not very good at desk work, but when there is a problem, she always answers with a smile on her face and tells her subordinates to not worry. She then suddenly finds herself in the battlefield, as she still looks down and tells someone that it's okay. A soldier lies defeated on the ground, trying to grab her hand for the last time. While she assures him that the enemy has been annihilated, he could rest easy now. Suddenly, she wakes up in fear as she comments she saw that same dream again. She narrates that when her subordinates were exposed to a threat that could not be remedied by fighting, this powerlessness made her feel very frustrated. But just then, Rust arrived with his typical smile. That just when the lives of her subordinates were slipping through her fingers, Rust came to the rescue and saved them. In the morning, Kaylin thinks as she wears her overcoat that a research-hungry man of his stature left the association as soon as she contacted him. This could mean that his boss must have been very useless. She thinks about how much freedom and rewards she decided to give him because he is working for her now, as she calls on Rust and asks if he is headed somewhere since he is up so early. Under the broad daylight, Rust greets her good morning and says it is usual for him to be up this early, even though it's rare for Kaylin. He tells her that he has nothing to do for a few days, and so he decides to go out for some materials, to which Kaylin replies she understands, and tells him to be careful while he's out there. As Rust is leaving, Kaylin expresses how thankful she is of him for helping her with the disease, and announces that Kaylin of the Admiral Dominion would get him anything he wants. Rust looks back while wondering what's that all of a sudden, while Kaylin tells him that he should rely more on those around him. She says that doing everything alone is a quality and a fault of his, even though he may think that things get done faster if he's doing everything all by himself. She's worried all of the strain will accumulate and affect his body at some point, and people tend to not notice this fact about him. So her parting message for him is to rely on his comrades more, and she is to make sure that he can. Rust looks back and says with a smile that he understands, and thinks that Kaylin has turned out to be a great leader. He says that he is going to let Kaylin spoil him, to which Kaylin happily comments that she is counting on it. After some days, Rust is riding on Hippopo and narrates that he is on his way back to the camp after being out for several days. Kaylin gave him the budget to solve the water storage problem, just like she said she would, and he also has the materials he needs, so he can get right on if they have the water jugs. He even managed to hunt a few more monsters in addition to the one he was looking for. He was right to prepare scrolls to hunt different types of monsters. Rust thinks that using a scroll which is not appropriate for the monster he hunts could also end up damaging the materials and reduce effectiveness. After that, he sees the camp and comments that they are almost here. And just as he enters, he is greeted by a lot of people welcoming him, asking if his hunt went well and if he is hurt. Rust blushes from all the greetings and thinks that he can practically feel that everyone is excited about the possibility of their water rations increasing. Just then, someone waves his hand to call him out. It is the man responsible for food supply management. His name is Litna, to which Rust thanks him and says that he wants to talk to him. Rust says that while hunting monsters on the way, he brought along some parts that are not to be used for alchemy, but are edible and could be used to boost the food supply. Litna gets happy hearing that, and announces that he is ready to purchase them off him. While Rust grabs his bag off of the saddle, he says that he just removed the materials he needed. He didn't do any other preparations, and asks where he should put the materials. Afterwards, everyone gather at the monster butchering station, as they are eagerly waiting to see what Rust digs out from his bag, as if this is the only entertainment for the whole day. Rust thinks of how curious all of these people are, while they playfully pester him to bring out what he brought. Rust then stands up with a scroll as he applies some magic on it, and right then, a number of fresh meaty animal corpses appear on the ground, to which Rust happily asks if they would buy it. The people gets astonished to see the 4 male twin lion horns, and comments that they are dangerous, as they move in groups, while someone asks if he hunted them alone. Litna says these animals are in pristine condition, which is marvelous to behold, and then he orders 2 more people waiting outside to help him. Rust happily says that he brought a few more, so he'll just keep taking them out, and then he casts out several animals. One being a 3-star rarity, mouse monster type animal called the Thousand Rat, which is poisonous, so special attention is needed while cooking. Hellhorse has 3 heads and can even be eaten raw if consumed within the first day of hunt, and 6 stars bear type mole bear, who has innards that can be used for medicine. Litna gets surprised seeing the monsters, and shockedly comments that this is just too much. Meanwhile, a bald-headed man names each animal, and says that there is one that even he doesn't recognize. He comments that Rust at the very least defeated several mole bears and hellhorse monsters that are recognized to be extremely dangerous, and says that he would definitely want to fight Rust someday. Rust nervously replies that he is leaving the rest to these people, and please let him know when they are done assessing all of these. And then he quickly sneaks away out of the tent. After this, Rust enters his tent and says to the rose monster that he is back. He thanks the rose for looking after the injured lizard he left behind, and even sees that it has been giving the monster the potions he left. Rust says that its condition has not changed, but at least it's not getting worse. He narrates, it's difficult because he can't use the same potions filled with magic elements that he uses on people, as even monsters can die from excessive magic elements, or they might become violent if it's not enough to kill them. The potions need to be administered over a long period of time, and since Rose is very meticulous, he can really count on it at a time like this, so he tells it to keep doing this. Afterwards, at the water purification center, he thanks Roa for getting the jugs and compliments how each of these are looking so good, and comments that it must have been tough having them brought all the way here, but Roa replies it wasn't a problem. After that, Rust touches the jugs to inspect them and says that there's not a scratch on them at all, and thinks that the sisters can sidestep any trouble with the power of their eyes. Roa informs that the atmosphere in the capital is quite tense. Some commodities are becoming increasingly expensive, to which he wonders if something happened, and asks about Kalen. Roa replies that Kalen has been informed about this, to which Rust gets relieved. He declares everything is ready, so he is going to install the purification feature, and asks everyone to step back a little. He stands straight and chants his alchemic spells of activation, thinking that it's going to be a simple transmutation. He says that first, he would grind the magic stone to dust, as it would be quick with the density of the diamond dust set to maximum. And then, he transforms the whirlwind into a smaller one, and adds the perfectly pure water, while releasing magic energy to maintain the purity of the water. Looking at the bottle, Rust narrates that the perfectly pure water is back under the laws of physics, and so it begins to increase its entropy, which was brought down to 0 by melting the closest thing, which is the magic stone powder. With a wide smile, he grabs the bottle and says the solution to write the magic circuit is finally done, to which Roa comments that it's incredible. Rust looks back at Roa and wonders if she might be interested, but she turns away her head immediately to hide her admiration. Rust then pulls out his alchemy spellbook and chants the release of constraints of gravity, and targets a magic circuit solution. He index searches the water purification circuit and implements the spell. The book automatically flips over to display the right spell, and when it does, Rust casts it towards the floating scroll in front of him. While chanting the transcribe spell, this is to transcribe the water purification circuit. Just like a projector, the scrolls project the magic solution on the water jug, and fixates it to make the magic circuit a part of the jug. Finally, he presses a button and says, all that's left is to stick the magic crystal. That will power the purification on the jug. And so, he decides to do the same on the other jugs. Seeing all that, Roa blushes in admiration for Rust, and says that they would now be able to use all the water they want. But Rust interjects, and tells her that he is just beginning. They look at each other confused, while Rust clears out that in its current state, it serves only to hold the water. He is going to make another magic item, which makes it so that they don't have to bring water. Roa gets astonished hearing that, and asks if he really can do all that. Roa says that she would like to see him do it, to which Rust tells her to come with him, and thinks it's fine, since there is not any danger. The two of them reach a nearby lake, where Rust tells Hippopo to take a dive in the lake and check just in case. Rust narrates that this instrument is coated with a compound, using the smell of the poison in the catfish's tentacles, so he can repel other monsters, and with the magic stone of a certain monster, it is made with strong water-resistant scrap of material found in the camp. Just then, Hippopo walks out of the pond with a small monster in his mouth. Rust thanks Hippopo for the hard work, and says that there are only small monsters left in the pond. He pats Hippopo while thinking that since the boss catfish monster is gone, other monsters have started coming in the pond. He then kneels down and grabs on the instrument, while Roa asks from behind if this instrument uses magic stone of a specific monster. Rust replies that it does, that's why he had to leave to go look for that monster, which lives out in the hot volcano. Roa asks what kind of monster it is, to which Rust replies that it's one called a paralyzing cloud. Roa gets shocked hearing that, and says that monster is special grade in the danger rank. Even physical attacks don't work against it, to which Rust replies that's right. He says that they would make it so that they are notified if the pond dries up, then set the target, and set it so it receives feedback to switch. After that, he announces that it is done, so now he is going to turn it on. Roa asks what this item is called, to which Rust answers that since he created it, It doesn't really have a name yet, but he guesses he would call it a cloud-style water distribution device. After some time, the instrument is on the lake, seeing which Roa says that the item is turning the water into clouds, and asks if it is heating it. Rust disagrees, because it would cost too much to process large amounts of water, and that's why he is using the paralyzing cloud's magic stone, which confuses Roa. Rust states that the paralyzing cloud is a cloud monster, but its actual body is the magic stone, which uses magic to rewrite the laws of physics around it, as it turns water into a cloud, and controls it so it doesn't dissipate. Basically, the paralyzing cloud looks like a cloud monster, but its actual body is the magic stone. Roa sees that the cloud's gathering, and moving towards the camp's water jugs. Rust wrote another magic circle in the jugs to indicate their destination. And once they get there, the magic rewriting the laws of physics is undone, and it turns back into water. Roa is astounded seeing the vapor move across the sky carrying water, and couldn't believe what she is seeing. Rust says that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and asks Roa to try messing with that cloud, to which Roa does as she is told. She shoves her staff right through the clouds, only to find out that the clouds evade her attack. She gets surprised, to which Rust explains that one of the advantages of this instrument is that it's resistant to any kind of disturbance. In this remote region, monsters could break pipes if they try to carry water over a long distance, and this is because they don't have enough materials to use monster repellent the whole way. After explaining everything, Rust approaches his hippopo and tells her that they should head back to camp soon. After some time, with the sight of transmuted clouds flying towards the camp, Rust says that it's reaching for the jugs. They are done for now, but just then, someone calls him from behind. It is Ari, to which Rust asks if something is wrong, and she replies that Lady Kaylin is looking for him. In Kaylin's tent, she apologizes for calling on him so abruptly, but tells him that he needs to take a look at this piece of paper. Rust takes the parchments in his hand, of which one is open, and the other is still sealed. Meanwhile, Kaylin compliments him for working as fast as always, because it took a regular alchemist days to install the water jug, even though they have had the purification function before Rust arrived. Rust replies that writing magic circuits by hand takes time, and tells Kaylin to go check it out later, while he carefully reads the parchments and understands that the one which is opened already is addressed to Kaylin. Usually he would have asked permission first, but since she handed it to him, he guesses that she is just telling him to read it anyway, and finds that it's from the chief in Toma's village, and wonders if he has already spoken to his feudal lord about doing business with magic crystals. Rust says that he was told about this, but he is still surprised. The conditions seem good. But Kaylin says that they are more than just good, if not extraordinary, to be perfectly honest. Rust tries to hide her face, but Kaylin grabs him by the collar and asks just what kind of trickery he has used. Rust mentions that she is ripping her clothes, and thinks that with Kaylin's superhuman strength, she would shake his brain if she grabs him by the collar and shook him. Kaylin steps back and wonders if it's even supposed to be surprising. This has to be a mistake, because this costs them next to nothing. Seeing this, Rust decides to clear out and tells her that they are going to receive a business proposition about magic crystals from the neighboring dominion, and insists her to think about it, as the neighboring country might contact them. Kaylin narrates that the message doesn't even mention what type of magic crystals they are talking about, while Rust informs her that he didn't use any tricks, it's strictly business about old-style magic crystals. Kaylin gets surprised hearing that, and asks if it's the ones for the H32. As Rust replies with a yes, Kaylin interrupts him to ask if he can really make them, but then she settles back and says of course he can. She replies that now she gets it, but those old guns can't be found anywhere, to which Rust asks if she has H32 guns with her too. Kaylin replies that she does not, as most combat personnels there used to be her subordinates, and they know their stuff when it comes to military arts, which reminds Rust of the mean-looking bald guy he met at the butcher shop, and replies that he understands. Kaylin then asks Rust if he understands that he is barging straight into the interests of those people in the capital, and how he is pretty much picking a fight with them, to which Rust closes up the parchment and says that he knows what he is doing. Kaylin gets surprised to see that Rust is not worried at all, while he gives her a wink. She then fixes her hair and realizes Rust is saying that this is a job she can do something about. After that, Rust informs that he has actually been asking Harold about it, and narrates that Harold is a friend of both Rust and Kaylin's, that they know back from the academy. Then he throws the answer parchment in Kaylin's hand, to which she remembers that Harold used to be in the accounting department. She says that there is trouble in the capital. Even though she has heard it from Roa and Ari, she didn't know it was this bad. Kaylin says that this is a good opportunity, to which Rust replies that they should do it in one go, and he is ready when she is. Kaylin agrees, and tells Rust that he can now look forward to it. She will give him more than he can handle, to which Rust proudly accepts the order. Kaylin looks at him with dazzling eyes, and all this back and forth reminds her of their school days. Rust lies under the open bright sky, and says the wind feels really nice. While lying peacefully on Hippopo, he narrates that they are now waiting with Roa and Ari. Today is the day they start doing business over magic crystals with the neighboring Dominion. Suddenly, Roa turns her head away, to which Rust jumps off the Hippopo and mentions that they're here. He narrates that this is the power of Roa's long-distance sight, even though he doesn't see a thing, but he understands that the concerned party will be there soon. Ari comments that she can see them too, but expresses concern while saying that one of them looks strong. Rust looks out in the open desert and narrates that he can see them now, thinking about how he left the negotiations entirely to Kaylin, so he doesn't know the details. He recalls Kaylin saying that having this many trump cards makes the negotiation too easy and boring. Rust narrates the entire business plan, that the contract states that all the annoying parts like the supply of Kajero fruits, transportation of materials, and the distribution throughout the country are being outsourced. All he is doing is transmuting the Kajero fruits into magic crystals, which in turn is making him a lot of money. He doesn't have a minimum or maximum amount of magic crystals that he has to adhere to, so he can decide based on what is convenient for him. But he is warned that he would need to inform Kaylin if he wants to increase or decrease the production output. As a caravan appears from the desert, Rust thinks that this is a remote region without any roads. It's rough to travel on wheels, so traveling by mule is the best option. If they are to think about the future, then maybe they should make it a priority to fix the roads. But developing a remote region with limited resources requires a great deal of decision making regarding what to prioritize, that is both from a political and economic standpoint. Rust is somewhat relieved about the fact that these decisions are all up to his boss Kaylin. The travelers look weary, and seeing their condition, Rust says some of these people are injured. They were probably attacked on their way here, but he still doesn't see a lot of damage. It could be because they defended themselves against the attackers. He sees a brunette man lift his head out of his hood, and Rust remembers him right away, as this man is Zal, the assistant to the chief in Toma's village, so Rust greets him hello. Zal looks pleased to see Rust again, and bows his head saying he is very happy to be able to take part in this transaction. Rust asks Zal to not stress like this, they can talk like they used to before, to which Zal apologizes and says that he is not used to this, while Rust says he is happy to see him again, but more importantly, he could see some of the people look wounded. Rust offers to treat them if Zal would let him, to which Zal compliments his hospitality. Rust takes out a long vial and narrates that since no one looks seriously injured and the effect isn't very high, this all-purpose potion that he made beforehand should do the trick. Just then, Roa calls Master Rust, and he notices someone in the traveler group that turns his eyes wide. It's the Night Priest Tala, which shocks Rust very much. He narrates that Tala is the Night Princess that he saved on his way to meet Kaylin, and says that he is very happy to see her here. He wasn't expecting her to be with the delegation. Tala replies that she was actually on her way to come here and talk to Rust, and as she happened to be passing by Toma's village, she heard that these people were also heading the same way, so she asked if she could accompany them. Meanwhile, Zal says that the Night Lady Tala saved them from many monsters on the way. They couldn't thank her enough, to which Rust replies he sees. Rust adds he is glad that everyone is alright, and narrates that he gets to meet a couple of nostalgic people again, as he welcomed to the borderlands, stating this is the beginning of a new tale. Rust asks Tala how she is feeling since the last time they met, to which she replies that she has been really well, and wanted to thank Rust again. But Rust replies that he is the one who should be thanking her, as she has been guarding them along the way, and informs her the cargo is all for Rust. Tala agrees, and so Rust offers that she rest for a while since she could be tired, and so they can have some tea. Rust narrates he feels Tala has something to say that she doesn't quite feel comfortable saying out in public, so he offers if she wants to come over to his tent, to which she gladly accepts his invitation. Rust calls on Zal and asks if he could take the Kajero fruits to the square in the center of the camp, while Ari feels this is too easy a request. In Rust's tent, an impressed Tala says it looks incredible and asks if all the furniture is made of vines. Rust laughs and insists she sits down comfortably as the vines do not have thorns. They sit down over tea, and Rust addresses her as Miss Tala. but she tells him to call her Tala, as she has made an oath to lend her sword for him, because he has saved her life. Such formalities are not necessary. Rust happily agrees, and tells her to call him Rust as well, to which she thanks him. Tala sniffs the warm drink and compliments its rich aroma, and narrates that enjoying the aroma of the rose tea and relaxing together for a while is helping them to break the ice a little, and says that she wants to talk about the shaman. Roar replies with intrigue, asking if this is the one who sent the familiar after her. She replies with a yes, and tells him how she followed the shaman's track to the capital, and narrates that the shaman is the one responsible for the destruction of her church. It was then she was cursed, which made the shaman always know where she is. But since Rust lifted the curse, she managed to track him and find his hideout without being noticed. But unfortunately he ended up escaping. Then she presents a small disc in her gloves, and says that she found this where he has been hiding, and there is a lot of it there. Rust then wears the harvesting glove that has the special effect of a purify scroll applied, as he thinks that it might be cursed. He takes a hold of the chip and transcribes it on his alchemic scroll. While inspecting it, he asks if she showed this to the Alchemist Association in the capital. Tala replies with a no, and mentions that since it was suspicious, she thought of going to the Alchemist Association. But it was in a terrible state, because the walls had holes of different sizes that were hastily covered up, and there was a pungent smell everywhere, while all the employees' faces looked like they were the Walking Dead too. Hearing this, Russ thinks if slime or something ran while in there. He can't imagine that they left it unsupervised without looking after it. Tala says she figured that this board could be bad news considering where it came from, so she left the rest with an acquaintance in the capital, but decided to bring this one to someone she can trust, who is probably familiar with it, and this is the reason why she came to him. Rust mysteriously looks at the object in his hand and says that Tala took a wise decision, to which Tala replies if it really is. Then Rust explains that this is a magic circuit board to turn magic elements into flames, and not only that, but it's for military use. There's almost zero doubt that this was made in the Alchemists Association, because the transmutation is very much characteristic of the Alchemists Association. Also, there were a lot of magic guns in that hideout as well. Hearing this, Tala solemnly replies that basically there is a chance of a connection between the Alchemist Association and the shaman, to which Rust replies with a yes and mentions that all this is very suspicious. After this, Rust narrates that guns that shoot magic elements are very effective against non-human life forms, and monsters die if they take in too many magic elements. However, humans are unaffected by it, and it's fine even if a human gets shot by mistake. Because of this, magic guns are said to be simple weapons for people with no knowledge of military arts, but he says that changing the elements of magic elements leads to something called the conversion loss. He also explains that if they're to be used against monsters, there is no point in converting the element, so if someone wants to go out of their way to convert the magic elements into flames with this circuit board. Tala finishes his thought and says it only means that it's supposed to be used on humans, and asks if she's correct. Rust replies with a yes and says there is one issue. While the kettle magically pours tea in his cup, he says that this will probably discharge accidentally if used. In addition, it will probably cause a lot of damage to those around it, and it looks like that's the point because it looks deceptive. Then Tala asks if isn't that very bad, to which Rust agrees. He thinks that judging by the state of the circuit board, he would say that scavenger slime ate parts of it, and says that this kind of sloppy management makes him sad, even though it's his former workplace. After this, Tala stands right away and slams on the table, expressing her thanks for all the valuable input, and says that she made the right call going to him, to which Rust replies that it is Tala who brought her the valuable information. Tala adds that she should greet his boss Lady Kaelin, and asks if she could be taken there, to which Rust agrees, as he wants to introduce her to Kaelin too. After this, Rust is ready to work. He says that Zal and the others are leaving tomorrow, so he needs to transmute the Kajero fruits into magic crystals, even though he had to excuse himself from the dinner party held to welcome their guests, because he thinks and feels this is a great business opportunity, so it's better if he can take care of this fast. He can't look down on this hunch, as he picks one Kajero fruit from the sack, and says that he is ready to begin. Later that night, Tala sits in awe seeing the delicious food in front of her. She narrates that she is currently facing a welcome home dinner, and is sitting in front of the Lord Lady of this land, with two of her aides sitting on both sides of her, while the food in front of them looks absolutely delicious. Suddenly, she lands back to reality as she is called upon. Kaylin happily says welcome to the Admiral Dominion. She says that fate is really strange because Rust met her on the way here, and in turn Tala guarded the cargo for them. Kaylin says that it must have been tough and mentions that they prepared a little something for her to eat until she is full. Tala grabs both hands in appreciation and thinks how this food is well beyond just something, and she is very glad that simplicity and frugality are not tenets of her god Aresla, and then she grabs a morsel of the steak on her fork. Suddenly, Tala's eyes tear up from the amazing taste. She feels elated and thinks of this meat from a cow-type monster and how it's filling her mouth, while the herbs and the sauce pierce her nasal canal with its freshness and runs through her whole body. Internally, she is excited by the magic elements found in the monster meat and thinks that such high-quality magic elements must be from a high-ranking monster. She praises that the meat is abundant in high-quality magic elements and asks if this is twin lion horn, to which Kaylin responds that she is quite the gourmet. Kaylin answers, indeed it's a twin lion horn. It's a steak made from the meat of an adult female, to which Tala replies that female adults particularly have magic element-rich meat, so it makes sense that rich and thick magic elements are permeating through her entire body. Ari looks at her and says that these monsters were hunted by Master Rust, to which Tala immediately recognizes Ari, and says that Rust's skills as a hunter matches his skills as an alchemist. Ari replies yes again, but they both think that the mood feels odd, while someone brings in the ale and thanks them for waiting. Toka hands the mug and wonders if it is cold ale, and without thinking much more she pours it down in one gulp. She is in a state of arousal again, because of the moderate bitterness of the fragrant hops, as the cold and yet richly fragrant ale is washing down the juices of the twin lion meat in one go. She places the mug back on the table, and comments that the ale is wonderful because it came from such a remote region. She adds that she should have expected this from the land governed by Kaylin. It seems that she has a top-of-the-line cooling magic system as well. To this Kaylin replies that they actually have a magic item made by Master Rust, as he has been making many magic items when he has the time, while offering to improve the camp, and this is all for their sake. Tala thinks that Kaylin sounds like she is being defensive, but she cannot blame her. Suddenly, Kaylin asks Tala what she has been doing in Rust's tent earlier. Tala figures that Kaylin is concerned for her comrade, and recalls how she lost everything when the shaman attacked her. So she replies that she is after the shaman to take revenge for killing her comrades, and thinks that for someone who lost all her comrades, Kaylin is looking quite radiant. She adds that she found a clue related to alchemy, so she took the liberty to come here. To which Kaylin says that surely there are very talented alchemists in the capital. But Tala responds that she doesn't know of any alchemist as talented as Rust. He gave her the right guidance this time as well, and she can't trust anyone from the capital, as they might be connected to the shaman. Kaylin adoringly looks at her and says Rust really is very talented, while both Ari and Roa think about how radiant and happy Tala looks. In Tala's imagination, her comrades call upon and welcome her. Right then, Tala expresses her jealousy for Kaylin and says she too used to have comrades. Kaylin then asks if it was the shaman, and Tala acknowledges while thinking that this could be the effect of the alcohol. She begins her story as the moon shines brightly, and narrates that she starts talking about her comrades who were killed by the shaman. 2 years ago, in the Aresla church of the Turnagel parish, a child girl bumps into Tala while she is walking. Tala addresses the girl as Cheetah while she looks eagerly at her. Cheetah presents a small doll, and tells her to look at this, to which Tala asks if she sew this. Cheetah excitedly replies with a yes, to which Tala compliments it is nicely done, even though Cheetah used to be bad at sewing before. Cheetah explains that the fear of pricking her fingers is the problem, but she really wanted to make a dress for the doll since Tala gave it to her. Tala praises the young girl, and says the doll must be really happy too. Afterwards, Cheetah asks if Tala is headed to the town again, to which Tala replies with a yes, which makes Cheetah quiver in eagerness. She holds the doll against her chest and asks for a cute ribbon for her, to which Tala agrees right away. But just then, another girl creeps behind Tala and calls her. Tala recognizes it to be Forde, as she grabs Tala by the shoulder and secretly takes her away. She asks Tala if she is going out shopping, and requests her to get her some mole bear liver as it's a delicacy. And as Forde naughtily says that she would be waiting with ale, Tala narrates that the church is in a forest out of the town. It's her turn for the day to go out and buy their regular things. After this, Tala narrates that she wanted to leave early as she had a lot to get, when suddenly someone calls her, and she sees Lady Sella, who is the parish chief. Tala says that she is about to leave to go shopping, Sella finishes the sentence by saying, "If it's the town and forest as always." Tala replies with a yes and says that this is a good time to pick them since they are running out of some medicinal herbs, to which Sella asks if that's all she wants to get. Like a teacher, Sella commands Tala to be moderate with her training, as it would be awful if she gets injured while out alone, to which Tala agrees. She narrates how Lady Sella is like a mother to her and how she is so compassionate and admired by all, she could see through anything. Finally, under the everlasting sun, Sella blesses her by saying that goddess Arisla will watch over her. Tala clasps her hands together and asks if Kaylin knows the three faces of Ariasla. To this, Kaylin replies that these are love, wisdom, and vengeance, to which Tala replies very good. She says that since she was somewhat strong, she has been in a special position as she studied both the creeds of love and vengeance, and because of this her training could take a long time, so it was night by the time she got back. Then, she reveals that in the meantime, the shaman attacked. Tala thought it was late, but she says that since she got a cute ribbon and rare ingredients, she could be forgiven. She internalized, it's likely that Lady Sella would be mad at her, but just then, she got confused seeing how bright it was beyond the hills. Afterwards, she gets petrified to see her precious church in flames. She struggles to see through the rising flame, and wonders if everyone has been consumed by it. But she looks on the ground and sees a doll floating towards her on smoky black tar. She instantly recognizes it to be Cheetah, who hates pain so much, and yet she dies like an old rag. She watches as fire and rubble shoot past each other, and thinks that the auditorium that was thought to be the origin of the fire was locked from the outside. Also, from the broken windows she can see the burning silhouettes of the flames, moving like they are dancing. Tala gets terrified, and remembers her sword being inside the church. She cries and calls on anyone to bring her the sword, watching her church melt away piece by piece in the fire. Tala says that she could not do anything to help. She recalls that when the sun rose, the fire went out, and the first person she could identify was the parish chief Lady Sella. Then, she hovers her hand over her corpse, and thinks that her body that lays on the ground is quite burned, but her facial features less so. The kind of smile on her face remained even after her death. When she embraced her, the black substance flung out at her, triggering the shaman's trap. Tala is horrified and understands it is a curse. As she watches her hands through her soulless eyes, she understands that the shaman messed with Lady Sella's dead body because he knew that she is loved, so he used death to curse whoever came near. Tala confesses that she couldn't forgive her deaths and the way the shaman toyed with Lady Sella's corpse. On top of that, the bruises on her face caused by the curse were like a symbol of shame that he brought Lady Sella, so she expresses her deep apologies. She reveals her face as tears drop from her tragic eyes and says that everyone in the church should have lived longer than her, and she should have been the one to die. Seeing this, Kaylin touches her hand sympathetically and apologizes for making her remember those painful memories again. Tala regains her composure and wipes the tears of her eyes and says that she owes Rust for lifting this curse. Also, she says that she intends to present her sword to Rust after she gets her revenge, to which Kaylin says that she would always be welcome to. Tala replies with a kind face and thanks Kaylin in return. As the candle light shines bright under their tent, Tala narrates this is how she also started calling Kaylin by her only name, after she met Rust. Meanwhile, Rust is busy producing the old-style alchemist magic crystals as the scrolls float on his head. He says as he looks in his sack that he has already done quite a bit and thinks that since he has been at it for a few hours, he has started to get thirsty, and then someone calls out to him. It is Ari standing there with a pantry, seeing which Rust asks what is this, to which Ari happily replies that she has brought him something to eat and drink and says that maybe he should take a break. Rust is pleasantly surprised, so he says while wrapping up his scrolls that he has just started to get thirsty too, and since he reached the goal for that day, he would gladly accept it. Rust grabs the pantry and prepares to eat while standing up when Ari calls him again. Having Rust's attention, she says since the tent is nearby, she could go fetch him a seat if he wants. Then, they sit in front of Rust's tent while an alchemic scrolls provides them with some light, and Rust says that he is sorry for all the trouble, to which Ari replies that it is no big deal at all. Rust drinks while thinking that ale really refresh his throat that has been working for a few hours straight. Ari says that the ale has apparently been made by Litna for the welcome banquet. He's very proud of it, because he has been trying to perfect it ever since he got there. Hearing this, Rust replies that the ale indeed is really good. He has never felt a smell like this coming from the drink, and comments that maybe Litna used ingredients from a plant-type monster. As the gossip ensues, Rust talks about how Litna is not only in charge of food storage, but even makes drinks too, to which Ari replies that she remembers Litna being very happy when a barley monster wandered in there and he went after it to hunt. Rust inspects the delicious food and says that an item here is the twin lion horn steak. This is the first time he is seeing it served as a thick steak, even though he has eaten this item many times before. He comments that the cooks in the camp are good, so even if the ingredients are the same, they are always cooked differently. To which Ari replies, it's because meals are pretty much the only thing everyone look forward to around there. Then, as she sits patiently, she addresses Master Rust and tells him that there is something she wishes to talk about with him. Rust stops eating immediately and tells her to say what she wants. Ari, with her face hidden behind the cloth, asks Rust if he has noticed that she and her sister have special powers. Rust calmly replies that he figured that they probably do have special powers, and he understood this back when they were waiting to ambush him outside of the camp. He assumes Roa can see far or see through things, and Ari has a grasp on how strong things or people are, so the power could be related to that. Hearing this, Ari compliments his intuition, and comments that he is mostly correct. She says that Roa does have the power to see far and through things, as Rust has previously seen her display, while she herself does have the power to see the future in a limited capacity. Rust understands her, and says that having powerful magic is wonderful and rare to begin with. But he thinks that Roa has two powers, and Ari can only see the future. But he ponders upon the word future, as it's the sort of thing that seems limited to some legends. Ari politely says that her future sight is not such a big deal, as it only reacts to possible conflicts and lets her see a few seconds ahead, and like she says, it is limited. Rust says he thinks it's great, but then he playfully asks if it means that Ari knows his fighting style. Ari didn't have an immediate response, seeing that Rust thinks that even though her face is covered by that cloth, he can clearly imagine her having a meaningful smile right now, so he asks Ari if she is sure about confessing all of these to him. He asks if it's okay for her to tell him about their magical eyes, especially about the conditions that activate it. Ari says that she has made this decision based on his behavior in the camp. Roa is her only family, but also for the people that are risking their lives alongside her in developing this camp. He has helped them a lot, so she has decided to ask him to listen to her based on the trust he has built. Rust gets surprised to see this grateful display, and requests Ari to please start explaining. She moves her hand and points to the cloth attached on her face, and says that what she actually wants to talk about is this cloth. Rust calculates that based on the magic element reaction he could feel, he questions if this is a magic item that serves as a seal. Ari replies with a yes, and mentions that the wearer of this can see through everything. She continues that these are special magic items, and there are only 2 of these in the entire world. But she says that Rust could already tell this just by looking. Hearing which, Rust replies that this feat is not very impressive, because he was just half guessing. He asks if she wants him to repair it, to which she nods her head in disagreement. She rests her head on her hand, and says that these magic items were created to stop their power from going berserk, but they are gradually losing their effect. Rust understands, and says that if she does not want them repaired, this means that the powers are still growing. He says that they should think about creating 2 new magic items, but it could probably take them some time, to which Ari gets surprised. She kneels down in obedience, and starts thanking Rust while saying she swears that she will repay this favor, but Rust requests her to stop. He tells her to please get up, and remember what she just said about the fact that they are all a family. They are all in this together and risking their lives to develop this land. With a smile, he continues that this means she and Roa are his family as well, and he would happily help them any way he can. Hearing which, Ari blushes underneath her cloth. Finally, Rust flicks his finger and thanks her for the meal, saying that he needs to get going. He will have a look at their clothes the next day. Ari acknowledges with a yes and confirms tomorrow as she watches Rust walk away. With a content look, Rust carries his pantry towards his tent, thinking about how he needs to get back to producing those magic crystals again. Then the next morning, Zal shockedly asks Rust if he really transmuted all of these magic crystals within a single night. Rust scratches his head as the villagers and Zal shockingly looks at a lawn full of sacks containing old-style magic crystals. Zal encourages himself to not be shocked, even though it's unbelievable, and then he shouts at his subordinates to start loading up the mules. Zal says that Rust is incredible, and even though his village chief says that he is really a great alchemist, he has started to think that Rust could even be better than he thought. Before Rust could reply, Zal says he would now go and get that big shot. Afterwards, a young man proudly introduces himself as Memels, a civil official from the Dabbleton Dominion, and expresses his pleasure for meeting the people here. He continues in front of the representatives of Kalen's Dominion that he is very surprised because he didn't expect a mountain of Kajero fruits would turn to magic crystal within a single night. They sit on the table and discuss business, as Memels say he would now discuss the payment for this transaction. Meanwhile, Rust wonders if the village chief of Toma recommended this to the feudal lord, that he would probably finish the entire lot of Kajero fruits within a night, so it's best if the payment is made ready in advance. He sees Memels writing on the parchment with a quill pen, which is a magic item. It writes with magic elements to prevent important documents from being rewritten or forged. And then his colleague opens up another box for Memel that has an antique-looking stamp. This stamp too is a magical item, and the moment it lands on the parchment, it leaves an aristocratic insignia, which vanishes eventually within a blink of an eye. Rust looks at the parchment and sees that the amount written on the parchment is more than double the budget the basic research department got approved in its last year. Memel's colleague hands the parchment to Knight Kalen, and while addressing it as a stamped check, he requests her to accept it. Kalen replies with a smirk on her face that she considers it accepted, and hands it to her colleague while telling him to pay off Rust's share in accordance with the contract. She then stands up and declares that she hereby announces the creation of this Dominion's alchemy research department under her direct control, and appoints Master Rust as its chief, something which Rust did not see coming. Rust knows that this is an unofficial announcement, but he is somewhat used to Kalen's erratic behavior by now. He bends his knee to Kalen along with a few others behind him. Kalen declares that this is an official proclamation of the Lord of the Kalen Dominion, and for the time being, the aforementioned department's budget will be the money earned from the sale of magic crystals, but excluding Rust's share. A person writes all of these commands down, seeing that Rust thinks that establishing a new department is not easy, so it frustrates him to think about just how much clerical work this person is responsible to do. Finally, Kalen addresses Mr. Memels and says that they will send the crystals to their destinations, including Memel's Dominion as it was previously agreed. To which Memels says that he understands, and he will handle all the details without issue, and expresses his eagerness to put all these strategic resources to good use. Rust thinks that Kalen is really her best when she is scheming. It's easier for him to leave everything to them. After that, Kalen tells everyone that they are done here for the day, while someone tells Rust not to just leave yet. Rust wonders if she is going to tell him more about this new department, but Tala stands there as she congratulates him on his new post. He says that he is surprised to see Tala so suddenly, to which Tala says she wishes that she could see how he does all this, but she will use this newfound information to continue her pursuit of the shaman. With a smile, she says that this is goodbye for now, and she hopes that he stays in good health. Rust too replies yes, and says that he hopes she succeeds in her revenge, as Tala walks away with her hair flowing. Kalen points to some legislation, and informs Rust of the duties of the alchemy department, but she trusts his good judgment. Rust narrates that according to Kalen, what he will be doing is not changing very much. It's to solve problems that can be solved with alchemy, transmute magic crystals, and carry on basic research. Kalen says he could be doing anything he wants within budget, but he should make sure to report what he is using and why to accounting within reason. Kalen then snaps her finger and adds that even though it's the alchemy department, she wants to gradually increase its personnel and eventually have it function as an independent organization. Finally, she asks Rust to think of a name for this department, to which he gets stunned. Rust freezes and narrates that he definitely doesn't want one that is too close to the Alchemists Association, as it's an organization that is directly under control of the country anyway. He keeps narrating if he should give it a name that is distinctive of the Admiral Dominion, or maybe he should relate it to his own alchemy. But he knows that he won't reach a decision right away, so he says that there is no rush. He is going to focus on what he can do right now. Then, the sisters call him from outside the tent, and announces that they are coming in. Rust gets happy to see Ari and Roa, and apologizes for calling them while mentioning that he wants to examine about what Ari told him the day before. Rust narrates that Roa has consistently been looking around the tent. That's probably because she has been looking at Rose with her see-through eyes. It must be interesting to see through them. And then he asks Rose to make seats for the two sisters. Hearing this, vines shoot out from under the ground and transform into seats for both the sisters. Rust gets down to business, saying he wants to examine both the flow of magical elements in their eyes, as well as the functions of the magic clothes suppressing them, to which the sisters reply they understand. Russ hands them a sealing scroll and asks them to wrap it around their eyes, as this would seal their magic eyes completely, while he will do a simple examination of their magic clothes. The sisters look at each other. Ari asks who would go first, while Russ narrates that he can feel some nervousness coming from that question. But he is not surprised. He is sure a lot of it comes from the risks involved from taking off a magic item that they have on their faces at all time. Regardless, he says that they should start with Roa. Russ says that he has heard about Ari, and how her magic eye puts a lot of strain on her body. Hearing which, Roa agrees right away. Russ then hands them a scroll and tells them to wrap it around Roa's head and over her eyes. Ari takes the scroll in her hand and takes a look for a second. She goes to Roa and begins, as she wraps the scroll over her eyes beneath the cloth. Roa adjusts the scroll over her eyes and tells them that they can start. Then, as Roa holds on the scroll, Russ comes in front of her and casts the seal magic, after which he tells her that she can now let go of the scroll. Russ then asks Roa how she is feeling, to which she replies that she can't see anything, it's total darkness. Russ replies he is now sure that the scroll is working properly, and then he tells Ari to remove Roa's magic item, to which she agrees. As the magic item is removed, both Ari and Russ look at her. Roa says that she doesn't have to see anything, everyone is like this, but Russ gets confused hearing that. She falls down on her knees, to which Ari grabs on her and calms her down. Russ is glad to see this, and narrates that he needs to examine Roa's magic item right away. He commands the plant monster Rose to bring him the magic element tester, which it does. As he analyzes the magic stone, he comments that it seems alright, while narrating that it's a device that sends weak magic elements to test magic items, and it's also used to replicate magic elements from people's bodies and check their flow. Russ points on the magic item and says that the supply of magic elements is there, and thinks that it's right in the middle of Roa's brow when she is wearing the cloth. And then, he narrates that he is measuring the flow of magic elements via pendulum dowsing, which is the same he used while investigating the disease. As the pendulum hovers over the magic item, he keeps narrating that the structure of this magic item is pretty simple, where a buffer, an amplifier, and a noise canceller is present, but he figures out that all of these are kind of pointless. He explains internally that there is plenty of room to remodel it on a functional level, as the build itself is quite thorough, and the magic circuit inside it is burned with a good solution. But there is a catch. Russ narrates that at present state, the alchemist who made this is second best at this rate, and he could easily combine multiple magic circuits that he already has and make something that is functionally better right away. So, as he thinks that whoever made this magic item must be close to Ari and Roa, he does not know whether he should let them know right away. Meanwhile, Ari tends to Roa, seeing which Russ understands that Roa has calmed down, but he observes something. He narrates that it could be the psychological factor playing a big part, as the sense of security this magic item gives Roa could be more effective than the actual function of the item. Then, he hands the magic item to Ari and tells her to put it back on Roa's face, as he would now examine her. After that, he casts the release spell on Roa and asks her to give him her hand. Roa extends her hand out to him, and they touch hands, after which Russ casts a few spells on her, which are to activate sharing protocol, managing authority, and transfer Russ to targeting Roa. Then he transfers authority to sealing scroll, and ends the protocol. After this, as Roa takes a look at the scroll on her hand, Russ says that he already has a few of these scrolls, so she can have that one, and suggests she use it while resting. Roa looks up at Russ, and then looks down again, not knowing what to say. As she hangs on the scroll, Russ wonders if the work done is bad, but then Roa thanks him. Russ narrates that Roa whispered really quietly, but Ari has a smile on her face. After some time, Russ is sitting on the study table inside his tent, and thinks that he is done examining Ari and Roa, and he is trying to make 2 new magic items for them, but he is not sure if he should hand these to them. Their performance will be a lot better, but wonders whether it would be the right move for them, as he feels from the magic items that whoever made them has close ties to Ari and Roa. He touches on the newly made cloth and thinks that if he gives them the new magic items, they would be done with the old ones. He narrates that special powers are rare, and there are a lot of things they don't understand. Also, there is a good chance that the psychological elements can influence their control. And so, if it's just about supplementing their ability to control their powers, then the magic items that they have been using might actually be better. Russ thinks that it's tricky, and asks himself if he should make a device that measures the extent of their control and compare them. He recalls about his previous trouble in the association, and thinks that his research has reached a dead end recently. This is mostly because of his two great enemies in his former workplace, odd chores and tight budget. After this, he rethinks that since he now has a budget, he should try a different approach. Deep in concentration, suddenly he realizes something, and says that instead of trying to increase the performance, he should create a turn on and off ability, and he can do this by making the time span short, so it's controlled automatically. And while writing down something, Russ says that if he reverses a formula there and applies it elsewhere, he thinks it would come out to something worthwhile. Then the next morning, he stands proudly in front of the sisters as he thanks them for waiting and says that he has 2 new magic items that he has prepared for them. As a pair of ornate glasses lay on the table, the sister takes each and tries to analyze how it works, seeing which Rust laughs. He demonstrates how to wear glasses, saying that they should unfold the long and thin metal parts and hang them over their ears. The sisters ask if this is okay, and fling their magic item cloth away, while Rust asks them if they can now take off their veils. Then, Roa's face is revealed, with new magic glasses on, and she looks pleasantly surprised. Ari also has a half glass on her face, and she thinks that it fits her well. Rust is happy seeing the 2 sisters as they gossip over how cool their faces look and how fresh it feels. Rust compliments them, saying it suits them very well. Ari says that it is still a little embarrassing for her, and it could be because she is not used to this. They walk in front of a lake, as Rust says he would now explain how to use them, and he would start with Roa's power. After that, Roa, while carrying a spear, attacks on a fish monster. Rust asks if it's working well, to which Roa answers in a yes and mentions that it's working good. As she touches the middle of her glasses, Rust narrates this gesture is supposed to shift her magic item into power ceiling mode. It looks like she is going to keep testing the performance of the magic item until she is satisfied, as he describes that armored salmons have scales as rugged as rocks, and their eggs can be pickled with salt as a popular dish. As Rust and Ari stands in front of a huge pile of armored salmons, he comments that he thinks even Kalen couldn't crack these scales with one blow, while Ari says that Roa is striking them between the scales. As Roa dances on the lake analyzing her new magic item, Rust thinks if these fish could be used as materials, as Roa compliments her glasses again. After this, Rust asks if the sisters have any complaints, like with the way it changes modes, or with it slipping during battle or something like that. To which Roa replies no right away, while Ari says that she is being rude, she should answer Master Rust properly. Roa says she can control her magic eyes exactly as she wants, so she can see the world really well. Then, Roa says that shifting between transparency mode and long-distance sight mode is really smooth. But there is one thing that could change. She points at her glass and comments that shifting via voice activation is convenient, but doing it by touch would feel a lot better. To which Rust wonders if controlling it physically would be more reliable in the heat of a battle, and says that he understands. Roa adds that she uses her spear on her right hand, so she wants to control everything with her left hand if possible, to which Rust requests for the item back, and mentions that he would fix it right away. He uses alchemy and rewrites the magic circuit, and says that he is putting the features that were distributed between the left and right sides all on the left. Afterwards, he returns the magic item back to Roa, to which she jumps down on the lake with excitement. Rust and Ari stand around the lake and watch Roa's excitement. Then, Ari senses something, and places her spear in midair. Suddenly, a giant armored salmon jumps out of the lake and plunges its head right on Ari's spear, to which Rust wonders if the armored salmon purposely aims for Ari's spear. Then, Rust observes that Ari saw exactly where the armored salmon would jump with her future sight magic eye. He thinks that these 2 really are sisters, as they both look so happy, but just then, she turns around to look at him. Rust wonders if Ari's magic eye activates outside of the battle as well, and if she sees a future in which he accidentally says what he is thinking. To which Ari confidently looks at him with a side eye, and says that he is not completely wrong. Cut to the association's side story, where Rihaltsam is apparently falling apart, after he has been asked to call Rust back, as he deems it is unthinkable. Hearing what Rihaltsam has to say, the president slams his fist on the table, which scares Rihaltsam, and the president tells him to have a look at the reports. He shouts that every department is saying the same things. It's either excuses that the low quality of basic materials is making their transmutations fail, or reports that the delay in getting basic materials is making them miss deadlines, which is making the buyers ask for compensation. The president sits back and says that he has been getting yelled at and pestered by other presidents to honor this agreement. He then seriously asks Rihaltsam to remember his words when Rust left. He said it wouldn't make a difference, so justify this state of affairs. Rihaltsam stands angry and speechless, while the president slams on his table a second time and shouts that not only Rihaltsam failed to make up for Rust's absence, but he has been damaging the association as well. The president complains that there are large holes in walls all over the buildings, and the smell still hasn't faded away. But Rihaltsam still stubbornly says that he opposes calling Rust back. He continues arguing that their sales have hit a historical high even though Rust is not here, and adds that all the new style magic crystals that they shipped the other day will soon bring an outcome. But the president shouts that he knows all of it. Finally, the president puts him in charge of filling the hole left by Master Rust's absence, and if he fails he would need to personally go and bring him back. Rihaltsam bites his teeth and leaks out a yes while he schemes that all of it is Rust's fault, and none of it will be forgotten. Then, Rihaltsam maintains an authoritative face and walks loudly towards the arms alchemy department, to which the apprentices gets worried. As Rihaltsam walks towards his seat, the apprentices realizes that he is in a bad mood, so they pretend not seeing him. Just then, Tsubasa walks in with a report and tells Master Rihaltsam that there is a problem, to which he asks what all this noise is about. Tsubasa says that most of the new style magic crystals that they shipped the other day have been returned. Hearing that, Rihaltsam freezes completely. He shouts what in shock and that there must be a mistake, but Tsubasa points in a way and tells him to look. The two of them enter a room and see many crates sitting idle, saying that these products are defective as there are traces of melting by slime. He goes back to shouting at Tsubasa, asking what this means and what about payment, to which Tsubasa replies that he doesn't know. Rihaltsam then orders Tordek to check with the wholesalers, to which she gets confused, so Rihaltsam asks if she knows anything about this, but she scaredly screams that she does not. She asks what should they do with all these rejected products, and adds that they cannot just throw it all away. Hearing which, Rihaltsam replies of course not, as this is the source of their revenue. He orders her to go to the storage and throw away things that look old, to make room to put the crates there, while he goes and checks where this is supposed to be delivered. Tordek can't think of what to do with these, but guesses that they have no choice but to check out the nearest storeroom. Meanwhile, the apprentice groups discuss if they can really throw away things just because they look old, and another person says that managing storerooms falls under the alchemy department's jurisdiction. They look around and comment that if they tidy up a bit, they will be able to fit everything here. One girl asks if they can throw out those old wooden boxes, to which someone asks what it is. He can't read what's actually written there, it's too scratched. She touches the crate intending to throw the contents away, and says that it is just equipment from that destitute basic research department. It can't be that important if it is so dusty. Just then, she looks at another crate and asks what could be in here. She lifts the lid of the crate and finds a bottle of colorless transparent liquid. Tordek hovers the alchemy pendulum over the bottle and comments that there is a magic element reaction, and if they are colorless and transparent, then they must be defective potions. But the other girl laughs and says that the previous research department even stored these useless things. It makes sense that they got diluted, and asks if they can throw these potions out. Meanwhile, other apprentices ask if they should ask Rihaltsam before they take this decision, but Tordek says no. She recalls Rihaltsam yelling at her for asking too many questions, and mentions that he would get mad again, and orders Skinny to dump it all in the river. In addition, she orders all the apprentices to start putting away the boxes, and bring in new style magic crystals. So Skinny decides to close the lid of the crate, under which it is written that the crate contains concentrated magic elements, and needs to be handled with care. Skinny plans on borrowing a transmuted beast to carry these to the river, while Rust narrates that this concentrated magic element solution is something that he used to use during the early stages of his basic research. Fortunately, magic elements were not harmful to humans, and they would not hurt anyone even if they were dumped in the water. But on the other hand, the lack of any immediate damage also meant that no one would notice what Tordek and the others did, until it was too late, as the highly concentrated magic element solution reaches the armored salmon lake. After some days, inside the communications room in the Alchemist Association, Tsubasa is stunned reading a paper. Rihaltsam enters the room and sees Tsubasa nervous, which makes him pissed, as he snatches the paper off of his hands. Rihaltsam terrifies himself the more he reads about what's going on. Tsubasa looks at the terrified Rihaltsam straight in the eye, and informs him that apparently there are old-style magic crystals going around, and it's in great amounts too. Rihaltsam loses his mind, and shouts how impossible this has to be. He thinks deeply of how imports are completely blocked. He sees someone smuggling some in, but not a lot, which could mean that maybe someone from inside the Alchemist Association could be involved. But he rejects that thought too. He says that if one of the association's alchemists betrayed them like that, he or she would be thrown out on the spot. And unlicensed alchemists should not be skilled enough to do this kind of thing. But right then, all of it reminds Rihaltsam of Rust quitting. Rihaltsam stands in agony, as Tsubasa says that in any case, their clients are returning new-style magic crystals left and right, and at this rate, they are going to end up with a lot of dead stock. The conversation carries on while the others listen, as Rihaltsam asks how the sales are doing, to which Tsubasa replies that they managed to recover a little, but they are deep in the red, which makes Rihaltsam frustrated. He repeats how it cannot be happening, and narrates that in this current scenario, he would need to ask Rust to come back with his tail between his legs, and says that he definitely cannot let that happen. While he clenches his fist in anger, someone calls him from behind. It is an apprentice, who says that the chief is calling for him, and sees that he looks really angry. Having run out of options, he calls on Tsubasa and tells him to do something to mend this situation. But Tsubasa replies that there is nothing that can be done. Rihaltsam screams in frustration, and his loud cry echoes all over the association building. He narrates angrily, cursing Rust and blaming it all on him, while Rust sneezes in peace. Then, out in the bright daylight, a group of people seems to be walking. One of these people has a bald head that is shining bright under the sunlight. It is Rihaltsam with two more henchmen walking behind him, and he seems very pissed. He curses as he walks, all while recalling the fact that he has been ordered by his chief to go out and find Master Rust. The current president orders him to personally go out and bring Rust back. He tells Rihaltsam to take responsibility, thinking of which deeply pisses him off. As he travels within the forest, he narrates that he even had to hire attendants out of his own pocket, and says that these guys are just delinquents that can't even fight well, but it's better than nothing. Then, one of the henchmen asks Master Rihaltsam if this is the right way, and if he is sure, but Rihaltsam seems confused and angry at the same time. Rihaltsam responds that it should be the right way, and then he asks them if they know what to do. One of the attendants is holding a gun. While he says that these have magic circuits that change their elements, Rihaltsam made them personally. A Razorhead attendant confirms that he needs to blast that Rust guy from behind. They will burn him to a crisp. Rihaltsam schemes and asks them to kill him after luring him out, and they need to do it in a way that his corpse attracts monsters and they eat him. He adds that Rust should have a lot of money with him as well, because he is sure Rust is the one making those old-style magic crystals, which they decide to split evenly, and so he tells them to keep their mouths shut for now. The henchman group tells him to leave the job to them, as they narrate that they would not have any trouble taking out a weak shut-in. Rihaltsam thinks that the group he brought along is all too much, and the forest is too hot to handle, but it is all Rust's fault for making him have to come out in a remote region like this. He recalls of his conversation with the current president, where he has been told to go about and bring Rust back personally, and Rust's budget will be increased if he decides to come back. Rihaltsam rants that upping his budget would be enough for the guy to come running back with tears, as he complains that the president, despite being a knight, is just a country bumpkin, because he just wants to save his face against some poor new lord of a remote region. Whilst they travel, they are unaware of the fact that they are now in a remote region with so many different kinds of monsters and species that are very sensitive to sound. All of a sudden, a wild snake-looking monster with countless teeth opens out its jaw, which makes Rihaltsam call out for Deden's attention. Deden replies unenthusiastically, and comments that this small monster would be no problem for them. He calls out on the other guys and loads his gun. Then, one of the guys shoots the snake-looking monsters, to which it bursts out into flames. He lets out a wicked smile, and says that was easy, while another replies how incredible they are with these guns. The Razorhead henchman says he would do the next, while many more similar monsters come out to be their easy kills, as they are sensitive to sounds. But he takes a step back, while the other attendant questions if the number of monsters is getting out of control now. The henchmen panic and start shooting magic bullets left and right, while Rihaltsam commands them to stop and take out the magic circuits, because changing the elements uses up too many magic elements. But the attendants are preoccupied, as the snake-looking monsters keep coming in from all directions. Then, the Razorhead henchman says that his gun misfired, as Rust narrated before that these guns tend to misfire sometimes, while the snake monster gathers up in large numbers, and Rihaltsam orders them to shoot and kill. As one of the attendants tries to pull the trigger, he discovers that the gun is out of magic elements. He He turns back to Riholtsam and requests him for some spare magic elements and a magic gun, because the one he has been using is broken and the magic crystal is spent. Riholtsam cries out that he doesn't have spares to give out, to which his henchman freezes in shock. They look at each other and then quickly scamper away out of the forest, seeing which Riholtsam curses his attendants and asks where are they going. But with no luck, he turns back and cringes out from seeing the little monsters approaching him, as he asks himself angrily if he really needs to kill these weak little things. After this, Riholtsam whips out his alchemic scroll and chants activate. Then, he casts the interdimensional connection spell, but the spell crashes and hurts Riholtsam a bit, as his hand turns into a monster slime-looking limb. Finally, his right hand is revealed, and it looks like a variety of monsters and mushrooms mushed all in one, as he rants to kill the little bugs. The narrator says that Riholtsam's transmuted beast hand blowing out of proportions. For some reason, his transmuted beasts were all parasitic hyphae that lodged in his body, and since this is his only method of attack, he really hates having to participate in a battle. He slashes his long parasitic limb left and right and takes out all of the snake-looking monsters. Then, the monsters die, but leave out spores as they do. The spores turn out to be more fungus, bursting and growing out of the snakes' corpses. As Riholtsam looks at the destruction he has caused, a few more snakes chase him, but Riholtsam wastes no time and lands a heavy slash with his parasitic limb. But the snakes keep on coming, as Riholtsam curses them out as bugs, while one fast monster reaches for him quickly. In Riholtsam's lapse of attention, the small monster opens up its giant jaw and lands a bite right on Riholtsam's thigh, which makes him cry out in pain. He can't believe that he got bit, and smacks the little monster off of his thigh. The bite leaves a scratch on his thigh, seeing which he thinks a potion should do the trick. Riholtsam sits down on one knee and extinguishes his magical right arm back to its normal self, while he narrates that he has dealt with most of the monsters for now. But the alchemic reconfiguration process of the right hand hurts him a bit. He screams out in anger, again repeating that it is all Rust's fault. After this, he opens up a bottle of potion and pours it down his mouth, saying that Rust will pay for this condition of his, even though he would be happy to think he can go back to the association. But then he would crush him, while the pain in his thigh relapses. He stands upon the open valley and angrily awaits his revenge. Meanwhile, Rust stands straight and narrates that he would be doing an essential job of an alchemist today, and this is one of the main jobs of alchemists in developing regions. He narrates that the job is to extract magical elements from the soil that is going to be cultivated, because crops won't grow in soil with a high concentration of magic elements, so they have to extract and expel them into the atmosphere. He has to dig holes big enough to fit his hand in this land that has been cleared of rocks and roughly plowed, though the ground is a bit tough, to which Hippopo bumps its head against him. Rust asks if he wants to switch, as he instructs Hippopo to dig where he marks, to which Hippopo happily follows. At one point, they stop and Rust says this should do it, and thanks Hippopo for making his work easier. He has a garlic-like plant in his hand, as he says that he just needs to bury these transmuted bulbs to extract magic elements. He dips the bulb in the ground with his finger, and consoles Hippopo while saying he knows this is a little difficult for him to watch. Now that there are no leaks, he begins his alchemy, as he chants to begin the magic element diversion. The alchemic scroll ejects a magic hexagon, which multiplies into many and hovers on each of the buried bulbs. The hexagons perform their magic on the bulbs, seeing which Rust thinks it is all working out well. He says that he just needs to be careful not to extract too much of the magic elements, when he notices something hanging on his hand. Suddenly, he remembers Roa, who thanks him for the magic item he has made for the sisters, and presents him with a charm that is passed down in her hometown. Rust asks if she made it herself, to which she blushes and can't say anything. Eventually, she nods her head in a yes, but informs that when it's necessary, it can be cut. Rust is happy to have received something from Roa, but wonders how does it being able to be cut makes it a charm. Rust lies against Hippopo, saying the process would take some time, so he plans on reading a precursor's paper to pass the time. He finds something, as he narrates that it is a comparative study about the concentration of magic elements in soil, and wheat planted on it. He transcribed every paper stored in the basic research department into this scroll before he left, and he is sure Riholtsam and the others would throw them away if they found it, as he compliments how interesting the paper is. Leaving some magic elements in the soil makes food taste better for humans, as the human's brain misinterprets the ingestion of magic elements as a better taste, but in actuality, the flavor is the same. Rust says that his research paper is about effects of magic elements on the human body, so this is an interesting paper related to that. All of a sudden Hippopo notices something, seeing which Rust asks if the collection is done, and thanks Hippopo for letting him know. Rust compliments Hippopo for its great sense of timing, as the concentration is just right. And just then, Ari comes running while calling Rust's name and says that someone is there to see him. Her face is fully nervous as she informs that it might not be someone good. Rust repeats her words, not understanding it, and asks if this person gave her a name yet, to which she replies that he did. She pants and says the name is Rihaltsam, while Rihaltsam waits angrily as he bites his teeth. Rust asks if she can tell her more about it while they head back, and thinks that he has a bad feeling about this. He offers his hand to Ari, seeing which Ari gets confused, and then he jumps on the Hippopo. After this, the duo sits on Hippopo as he runs ahead in full speed. Ari thinks that Hippopo is fast, but it's quiet and comfortable, even though they are running in this wasteland. Hippopo is adjusting its speed so they don't shake. Rust explains that Rihaltsam is a former colleague of his from the Alchemist Association, and he seems to have a problem with Rust because he is always starting trouble. So he is probably there because of the magic crystals, but he figured that this would happen eventually. Ari looks sad, seeing which Rust asks if there is something in her mind, and she replies that she is not able to see the future quite well, but says that she sees a battle ahead, and it's not going to be a simple fight. She is feeling a bit of a fight that could even be called a war, and it keeps appearing and disappearing. Then Rust asks how her monocle is doing, but before he could finish, Ari replies that the magic item he gave her is perfect, and this is probably the reason why she can sense the signs of the fight. Rust narrates, since Ari answered his question before he could finish, then this could only mean that the magic item is not bugging out. Rust asks her if she is certain that he and Rihaltsam will fight, to which she replies that it's almost certain. Ari continues that this isn't all, as she doesn't know why she has never felt something like this before. Then she apologizes, but Rust tells her to not apologize, and thanks her instead for telling him the truth. All of a sudden, Ari's eyes light up, and she observes a shift in reality, while Rust notices everything. Ari narrates that she's sensing a turning point of fate is coming, and it is coming now because of Master Rust's choice. She continues that she is sensing different directions in fate, with a best choice as well as the worst choice, while both have equal value in terms of being a turning point of fate. Ari sees that fate is fragmenting and running, while wind blows through a wasteland, and she notices two men with a shaman's hand. Ari's monocle lights up again, as Rust narrates that there are magic elements in Ari's eyes and also the monocle magic item. He narrates that the processing speed is at its limit, so the monocle is responding to Ari's magic eye. But the future sight magic eye is incredible, which goes beyond his expectations because it can see very far ahead. Just then, something hits Ari's eyes almost like a bullet, and it hits her monocle. She is almost about to fall down, but Rust grabs a hold of her and tells her to hang on. Slowly, Ari opens up her eyes and says thanks to Rust, saying she is now alright, while Rust thinks that her future sight must have stopped. He narrates that Ari's magic eye puts a bigger stress on her than he thought, and tells her to not worry. After this, Rust thinks that no matter what fate or whatever brings, he would protect everyone. He reminds her that they are all his family after all. Ari's eyes widen from hearing this, so she says yes, to which Rust gets a little embarrassed. They travel near the camp, as Rust says that they need to get there quickly, so they are about to go full speed again. As they reach, they see Roa stand with her spear, instructing him to head a certain way. Rust lands off of Hippopo, and asks Ari what she plans on doing, since she is not feeling well. But before he could finish, Ari replies that she is going with him. She looks down and says that she will see through it, to which Rust gets happy. Ari tells Rust to be careful, as she is sensing an evil presence near him, to which Rust gets confused, and wonders if she saw something with her power of transparency. After this, Lady Kaylin stands in all her glory and might, as Rust narrates that her specialized meteoric armor is not for defense, rather it makes her heavier and increases her attack power. She acknowledges happily as Rust enters the scene, while Rust apologizes for keeping her waiting. And finally, they stand off against Rihaltsam, while winds of battle flow over the desert. Rust narrates that a master rank alchemist like Rihaltsam might be a lot of Kaylin to handle alone, since she specializes in physical combat. So he signals her to stop and moves forward himself. Rust announces that he is going to take over and asks everyone to get back. Rihaltsam calls over Rust and says so he is finally here. but Rust asks him what is his business, adding the fact that something smells as he grabs his nose. Sam asks Rust to listen and rejoice, because the Alchemist Association is officially bringing back the basic research department. So the president has offered him the chance to once again work in the prestigious Alchemist Association. He asks if Rust isn't happy after hearing the news, because it's an honor, and then happily tells Rust to go back with him. But Rust laughs hearing that, and says there is no way he would return, which surprised Sam. Rust explains politely that he quit because he wanted to quit, even though it started with the basic research department being disbanded. But he feels like he can really advance his research here in Kalen's dominion. He adds that if this is all Sam came here to say, then he should leave. Hearing this, Kalen and the others smile, but Sam doesn't seem satisfied with his answer. He bursts out laughing maniacally, which shocks them all. As Kalen and the Night Sisters look worriedly at him, Sam smiles like a creep. Like a man who has lost his sanity, he repeats that it cannot be helped. He would crush Rust now as he activates a spell, seeing which Rust hurriedly orders everyone to stand back and activates another spell himself. Rust shouts loudly at him, saying that it is forbidden for master alchemists to fight to their death. He wonders if there is seriously something wrong going on here, as he says that the best case scenario is he will lose his alchemist qualifications, and he implores Sam to reason. Meanwhile, Sam's parasitic right arm morphs unproportionately again. He smiles like a villain, and in a low voice says he is not leaving any witnesses. Then he whacks his arm on the ground. His arm leaves spores all over the place, and these spores grow into mushrooms and poisonous fungus within seconds, which shocked Rust. Rust understands that these are slime mold type transmuted beasts, so he needs to get some distance, and try his best not to inhale any of it. After this, the mushrooms implanted in the ground seem to grow out limbs of their own, and dig themselves out of the ground as if they have gained consciousness. Roa says it's the mushroom's sprouted limbs, while Rust narrates that as standalone transmuted beasts, they don't look very strong individually, but there are a lot of them, and knowing it's Sam, he probably attached some poisonous element to them as well. He announces that he needs to take them all out at once. Pulling out an alchemic scroll, he says he is sorry, but he needs to dispose of him as he chants the polish spell. Meanwhile, Ari asks if this is the same spell that he used in the production of the magic crystals. Rust created a small tornado on the palm of his hands, and taking a battle stance, he uses full power on targeting the polished scroll. Finally, he releases Limit, and the tornado is emitted off his hand extraordinarily, turning into a cyclone, which destroys all of the poisonous mushrooms in front of him. He thinks that he should cut them into small pieces, as he does not know what this transmuted beast is like, while Kalen and the sisters watch confidently. The tornado leaves the mushrooms scampering here and there. Rust thinks that he should get them as far away from the camp as possible, while Sam sadly watches his small minions melt away right onto his face. As the sisters watch, they say that the pulverized mushrooms are getting thrown all over the place by the suction power of the tornado, almost like a mushroom smoothie. Meanwhile, Sam keeps watching disappointedly, the demise of his creations being destroyed. Then Rust takes a break and wonders if he got them all, and finds a pile of slime rubble all in one place. But it is Sam covered in slime, who is looking like a snowman. Kalen comments that Rust is as merciless as ever, while the sisters says, it happened so quickly, Rust must be really strong. He has incredible power. Rust has a smirk on his face, and jokingly says that he just feels like running away. Sam is disgusted at being all covered in his own created slime. He starts getting even more angry, and panics of the death of his mushrooms, saying how dare Rust show such bravery. Rust and his friends get creeped out seeing Sam's expression. Then Sam starts moving all of a sudden, and casts another alchemic scroll, seeing which Rust thinks if it is the manifest scroll. Sam, being all covered in slime, proceeds to create a gigantic poisonous mushroom right beside him, as the mushroom ejects a lot of fumes from its head. Seeing this, Rust wonders if it is a smoke screen, but contradicts himself as that gas is heavier than the air, which means it will fall and spread on the ground quickly. But then he notices something. He sees that Sam has run away, leaving just the standalone mushroom in the desert in front of them. Kalen asks why he even came here in the first place, but Roa immediately plans to go after him. But Rust looks at her and tells her to stop, seeing that the mushroom is continuously leaking gas. He says it could very well be poisonous too. He comments that despite Sam's erratic behavior, he is still a master alchemist, so he activates another scroll and releases the limit to a disengaged seal. A giant alchemic scroll expands in front of his eyes, and he casts the Purify spell. Then, several hexagonal magic shields manifests in the air, all accumulating into a spherical shape surrounding the mushroom. Meanwhile, Kaylin and the sisters watch as they commentate that the space covered by the spherical shields almost looked distorted. And Kaylin replies that it serves to separate the gases and tells them not to get closer. Because, as he mentioned to Kaylin before, this specific magic requires a lot of focus, as Rust carries on his action like a hero. Rust narrates that separating gases and shaping each group into something like an air bubble means one of them is a bubble of pure oxygen. He then projects sunlight directly on the bubble that contains pure oxygen and burns it just a little bit. Finally, under the highly concentrated oxygen, it creates explosive thermal power, so the mushroom burns into crisps as the space bursts just like a bomb. The sisters says that it smells nice as they inhales it, while Rust proceeds to collect the purple poisonous smoke in a jar, which has a purifying effect. Meanwhile, Roa catches a glimpse of Rihaltsam and says that he is straight ahead. Rust thinks that this ability must be Roa's long-distance sight and tells Kaylin that he will be going after him in a while. But before he could finish his sentence, he is told to look behind them. Ari cries out that something is approaching towards them, and it seems to be a swarm of something flying in. Rust and the rest look at what seems to be winged fish. Indeed, it's armored salmon with wings that are stampeding because they have evolved, seeing which Rust doesn't seem to understand, as something is off with the timing. He thinks about the two options he has. One is to go after Rihaltsam, and the other is to stay there and defend the camp with everyone else. Then, Kaylin shouts that they are going to deal with the winged armored salmon, and orders Ari and Roa to go ahead first, and try to keep them in check while gauging their fighting power. She will take command of the battle and the evacuation of non-combat personnel. She adds that everyone should prioritize staying alive over anything else. Finally, she calls upon Master Rust and asks if he is going after Rihaltsam, to which Rust replies that he will respect Kaylin's decision either way. Rust narrates that his instincts whisper to him to go after Rihaltsam, and wonders if this is the turning point of fate Ari has been talking about, whether to chase Rihaltsam, or stay back and defend the camp with everyone else. Rust understands that Kaylin and the rest are not great with flying enemies. He narrates that all these enemies attack from the sky. With those hard scales, it could turn into a completely defensive battle. Without sufficient magic items or alchemy, there's probably going to be a lot of casualties. While clenching his fist in rage, he thinks between the casualties that will remain in the camp and letting Rihaltsam get away. Rust narrates there is a reason that fighting between master-ranked alchemists is prohibited. Because if alchemists go beyond that norm and use their power, there is a very good chance their surroundings are going to be affected by the battle. It's not for the sake of the alchemists themselves, but for the safety of the people around them. He adds that if Rihaltsam comes at him with no holds barred, then the threat might escalate and go one step higher. On top of that, as the feudal lord Kaylin understands it all, her number one priority is to defend the camp, but she is leaving the choice to Rust, so Rust replies that he understood. He makes his voice known that he is staying here to defend the camp, and narrates that looking at Kaylin makes him realize something. That if there are casualties here because he chose to chase Rihaltsam, Kaylin is going to bear that as the person in charge of this place, but she is not going to let anyone see that. Rust clears out with a smile that they can deal with Rihaltsam anytime later if he decides to come back. Kaylin gets surprised, but replies gladly and approves Rust's decision. She orders Rust to get ready to exterminate the sky salmon, hearing which he replies that he understood. Rust narrates jokingly that extermination might be too big of an ask, but he is going to do his best to follow that order while someone screams at him. It's Ari with her future sight eyes, who panickingly says that Rust needs to chase Rihaltsam, but Kaylin orders her to quiet down. Kaylin says that she is the one giving orders in the battle and orders her to fulfill her duty, hearing which Ari goes speechless. Ari says she understands and is going ahead now, while Rust internally apologizes from the back. He narrates it's not like he doesn't believe the future she has seen, but back in his old job, he had become completely passive without realizing it. Recalling the letter Kaylin had sent her, he narrates that he was given a choice for his future, and that involves trust, and remembers all the people he met along the way, who are now grateful towards him. He adds that it is hope, while he turns back and runs straight ahead towards the swarm. Rust thinks that he wants to protect all the irreplaceable things that Kaylin and the others gave him, and everyone in this camp. Then, Rust sees that the sky salmon broke into two groups, where one is descending towards the camp, and the other is headed towards the capital. Rust thinks if he should take this as good news, and if there is something in the capital. Then, he sees Ari, Roa and a few villagers doing what they can to stop the ongoing barrage of the flying enemies. Roa notices him and calls Master Rust, while Ari says that everyone there has knowledge of military arts, so they are fine. Hearing which, Rust is pleasantly surprised, but raises one question regarding the absence of non-combatants, to which she says that they are being led to the food storeroom. Rust thinks that if the enemy is attacking from the sky, the underground food storeroom is a logical choice, and says that he is counting on them all as he steps forward while thinking that he has no time to waste. He goes inside his tent and grabs on whatever bottles he has in his kit and chants the rapid transmutation spell, which emits a large number of hexagonal magic shields. The tent is filled with alchemic scrolls and magical orbs as Rust stands in his classic heroic stance. Then, he releases the constraints of gravity and targets the concentrated magic elements solution. He emits the magic of 9 balls, all floating across him in the air, and announces with determination that these are the highest quality of materials, as this is no time to be stingy. He adds that normally he would try not to be wasteful, and try to stretch every bit as far as possible, as the items he is now using are very precious, but he knows that he can just make more later. So if it means saving the people in this camp, this is a small price to pay, but his eyes look sad. He thinks that rapid transmutations need focus, like threading a needle, and since he has several active, it's a pretty big burden on him. Rust grabs on his alchemic hand with the other hand, and mentally hangs on for a bit more. He thinks that if he loses his focus here, it will all be for nothing, and he doesn't have the materials to immediately try again. Then, his eyes close every second, as he thinks he is losing his consciousness, but the reminder of Kalen and the others counting on him shoots him back to reality right away, which makes him open his eyes wide. He screams loud, making all of his being get to work to get this final stage right, and uses all of his energy. He narrates how close it was, since he was almost fainted for a second. He is preparing these scrolls to fight all those enemies in the sky. It involves the core with monster skin, as well as a magic circuit with a magic stone, and usually, it takes a lot of time and materials to transmute one, but he is making 9 at the same time, as finally the scrolls are ready. He notices something lying in the ground. It's a loose piece of string, to which Rust remembers Roa telling her that the string can be cut when necessary. He picks it up and thanks Roa for the gift, and then he looks out. He marches forward determinedly with the hope that everyone is still alright. Outside, Rust discovers the swarm of sky salmons flying over the square of the camp. An armored woman does her best to fight the incoming enemies as she slashes through the swarm of flying fish hunting over their camp. Rust is astonished to see Kalen's jet black full-plate armor and narrates now that he think about it. That's where her nickname comes from. That's the war hero, while Kalen jumps through the air and faces the barrage of flying salmon head-on. Rust thinks that as the jet black raging bull, Kalen has many times the strength of a regular person. But what she lacks is mass, but that full-plate armor and the huge sword makes up for the lack of mass. All of a sudden, Kalen lands fast right in front of Rust and asks if he is ready, to which he replies with a yes. Kalen complains jokingly that Rust is fast as always, because that took almost no time. But Rust replies that it looks like Kalen is enough to handle this on her own. But Kalen disagrees and tells him to look in a certain direction. The flying salmon conceives eggs and says that if she smacks them around and spreads the eggs, there will be trouble later, so she is counting on him. Rust smiles back and confidently says he would take them all out in one go as he pulls out the alchemic scrolls. He begins and activates all of the scrolls out in the air. From a distance, Roa and Ari spot something and asks themselves if whatever they are seeing belong to Master Rust's alchemy. Just then, Kalen asks them to take a little break. Meanwhile, Rust narrates that if he just wanted to shred them to pieces, he could use the polished scrolls, but using those inside their camp would cause a lot of damage. He then casts a force field of alchemic scrolls, consisting of hexagonal magic shields, while the barrage of flying salmon approaches directly, and he chants the rose spell in between. The barrage of flying salmon collide head-on against the force field. From this, the fish are sent into a state of frenzy as they try to penetrate the force field. But all of a sudden, they diminish in number as if they have all vanished at once. Seeing this, the Night Sisters are reasonably surprised, while Kalen comments it is incredible. A few loose branches hang in the air as Rust narrates that what he just used is the practical use of the manifest scrolls. He used return spell only on parts of Rose to send them to another space, and thanks Rose Plant Beast for the favor. Rust thinks that the salmon he just faces are a lot bigger than the armored salmon that he saw before. The fish develop fins so it can maintain their balance while flying, while those hard scale are developed further using house magic elements. So Rust questions if they take magic elements from the atmosphere and use it for dynamic lift, because that would be quite fascinating. But he thinks apologetically of the plant beast Rose, as he promises to prune it once all of this is over, since he knows just how big of a burden this will put on Rose. Rust watches the giant swarm of armored salmon flying over his head, and decides that it's time to exterminate them all. After that, he announces the scrolls to be dispersed. Meanwhile, in a different setting, Litna narrates that sometimes he's responsible for the food store, and sometimes he is the cook. But before he finishes, he slashes through something with his axe. He adds that the fish attack the camp's food store room as well, and there is no end to them. Then, someone addresses him as Commander Litna, and he informs them that he is going forward to act as bait. But Litna replies no to Harkness, and tells him to not break the circular formation. On top of that, he is not the commander anymore. He slashes his axe again and calls on Shisha. Afterwards, he understands how tough it is dealing with all these flying fish, to which Harkness questions what they should be doing, because at this rate, they are going to just keep swarming them. Litna has no immediate reply. He says that Lady Kaylin's message for now is to just bear with it, but Heartless questions for how long, and Litna says that all they can do is just trust her. Litna adds that they got so far by trusting her, so they should keep at it while beating with whatever comes their way. Then, Litna climbs on top of the storeroom, and orders everyone to keep bearing with the attack for as long as they can. Meanwhile, the barrage of attack doesn't seem to stop, so Litna thinks even though he said that, they are actually at the point where they should start looking for the right moment to retreat, and says that he is counting on Lady Kaylin, when someone addresses him as Commander. So he looks at him, and reminds him not to call him Commander, but before he could finish, he sees something shocking. They watch some vine-line creatures wrap all the sky salmon together, so Litna questions if this is some new monster, to which the other person declines. They watch the vine monster eating the sky salmon, and just then, the other person says that another group of the sky salmon has broken through. The group express their frustration, while Litna commands them to not falter to the incoming attacks. While they watch the salmon attacking with their wide jaws, they wonder if this is the day they die. But right then, even more vines capture all of the sky salmon, which surprises Litna. They see that the vines are coming from a scroll, and says that if there are scrolls involved, it must be Master Rust's alchemy. They surprisingly comments that all the salmon are ripped apart in a second. Even the commander's axe wasn't working, while Litna looks terrified from how powerful Rust's magic turns out to be. The group discusses that they were having so much trouble dealing with these monsters, so these master rank alchemists must really be monsters themselves, as Harkness watches with awe. All these remind Litna of the carefree looking guy that Rust truly is, and mentions that he uses some gruesome techniques. Then, Litna orders them to give him a damage report, to which a person says that they have had 12 minor injuries and 0 casualties, to which Litna comments that it's good to hear. They watch the scroll fall of the sky, while commenting that this sure is the perfect defense, while someone else calls him Commander again, and just when he is about to stop him from saying that, he gets interrupted. Harkness says that they really were not needed, and this question irritates Litna even more. He questions Harkness what would have happened if they didn't evacuate the non-combatants, and what if the swarm actually broke through right away, hearing which Harkness understands the point. Litna looks back up at the clear sky, and says that being depressed by one's weakness in face of great power, while Harkness listens to him patiently. Litna says it's all fine. They have to rely on the ones that can really go, because having the right people in the right places is called role sharing. He adds that even if one person is missing, this perfect defense wouldn't be possible. But then someone calls him Commander again, and informs that the mules are being attacked, which is terrible news. Then he raises his fist with courage and orders 2 or 3 to follow him as they are about to mop up the stragglers, and finally call it the perfect defense. Meanwhile, Rihaltsam drags himself along under the open forest as he is covered with the spoils of his own work. He angrily questions the situation he is in and asks how did this happen to him. He narrates that the root cause of all this is of course Rust. It all started when that guy came to the association. It all went wrong from that point. He recalls a young Rust politely saying that he has been interested in alchemy since he was little. He wants to do basic research on magic elements, while Rihalt-sam thinks that everything about Rust is nasty. He thinks that Rust is a joke, as he recalls an innocent him calls upon his mother when he sees the mushrooms, even though there was nothing present there the day before. He says that this is just like alchemy, and questions if it could be that primitive beings like fungi and alchemy could merge under one study. But before he could finish, his mother interrupts as she is disgusted from the fungi, and tells him to get rid of it before it spreads. Even though Rihalt-sam wanted to say something, his mother tells him to forget what he was about to say, and asks if he studied his alchemy. Rihalt-sam narrates that both his mother and father were brilliant alchemists, so they kept saying they had big hopes for him, and that he was going to join their field. They will turn him into the youngest master rank ever. Eventually, he became the head of the arms alchemy department, and yet the others kept on praising Rust to be the genius, saying that he was the youngest master rank there ever is, but he found this genius tag of Rust to be of utter nonsense. Rihalt-sam grew increasingly jealous of Rust, and says that he would pay for this someday. And not just him, he promises to get revenge on everyone around him as well. As he walks depressed, he rants that he swears to make him taste despair, and he would humiliate him for acting all high and mighty, just because he has a bit of a talent. But just then, his eye catches something. He bends down and sees that his knee bleeding from the scratch he got earlier. Rihalt-sam looks worried as he pulls out the potion that he has and questions the whole situation. He applies the potion and gets even more angry as it doesn't seem to be working. He feels that one potion is not enough, so he decides to drink all of the potions. But after he is done, he finds it weird because it's not doing anything at all. But then he remembers something and narrates that if he can make it back to the association, there is a very high quality potions there, so he pulls out an alchemic scroll. He says that he didn't want to use this because it gets his clothes all dirty, but at this point there is nothing to care as he flicks his scroll in the air. He uses the interdimensional connection spell to creep on his flesh, which is the parasitic beast number 4, called the Myxomycete King. A jelly-like monster emerges from the hexagonal shield and engulfs him all over his body. Finally, the monster takes shape, covering Rihalt-sam completely, like a ball inside a massive bubble, after which he orders the monster to take him back to the capital. The bubble-like jelly monster then jumps up in the air as it carries his master inside. Afterwards, Rihalt-sam lands in front of the capital as he tells the monster to stop. When he lands, the monster returns his body back to his previous form. Rihalt-sam narrates that he would normally be stopped by a guard since he looks suspicious, while he hurries to get a potion. As he walks, he hears the gossip of people, saying that monsters that look like fish came from the sky, and these are so tough that weapons bounced off. Rihalt-sam huffs as the blood leaks from his wound. He recalls that once he turns that corner, he would reach the Alchemist Association to get the potion. Then, he stands in front of the Capitol building and freezes to see it in ruins. He thinks that the association building should be here and wonders if he made a wrong turn. He falls down and says there is no way the association turned into rubble. He gave his life to this job. A dark hooded figure approaches him from the back and whispers if it isn't Master Rihalt-sam, to which he looks back and gets shocked. Rihalt-sam gets shocked to see that he is inside a barrier that has cleared the people, to which the dark hooded figure agrees. He says as he looks at the wound that it has encroached quite a bit, and it's a spectacle to see the Alchemist Association in ruins, since that many armored salmon attacked from the sky. The armored salmon head straight for the Alchemist Association, and it is like someone left something they like inside it. He adds that it's all a shame because the attack of the armored salmon has been a coincidence, but it was wonderful for a short time. But since there was this annoying swordswoman, so most places besides this building suffered only little damage. Rihalt-sam shakes from hearing this and asks who he is. With a wide smile, the dark hooded figure says he is a trivial, unimportant man. He says that he should thank Rihalt-sam for shipping those defective magic circuits, as this ruined his plan. All of a sudden, the dark hooded figure grabs Rihalt-sam by his face as he groans in pain. He picks him up holding his face and mentions that he found something marvelous. The demon inside him is growing very well. He has outstanding magic affinity with fungi. Also, he is filled to the brim with negative emotions. Then, he says he would give him a great present. There is no need to thank him for this, since it's a token of his gratitude. And then he flicks his finger. After this, he casts a dark magic on Rihalt-sam as it inflicts his wound. He comments that a new life awaits Rihalt-sam, and he will feel as though he is reborn. The man announces that he will have to excuse himself, as there is no telling when that woman will show up again, as he bids him goodbye and tells Rihalt-sam to have a happy demon life. Rihalt-sam feels a shooting surge and thinks that the pain on his right leg is disappearing. Then, some people gather around and call him out while asking if he is alright, to which he opens his eyes. Right after, his whole body erupts as fungi shoot out of every crevice, to which Rihaltsam cries out in pain. And the people around gets disgusted to see the mushrooms. His skin melts like slime, as his whole body is taken over by dark magic. Then, he turns into an obese demon Rihaltsam, who stares lifelessly. The people calls him a monster, or a demon who has taken the shape of a human, and declares that it's his fault those armored salmon attacked from the sky. Then, the people start running from the demon, while someone orders to kill it. They cry out that they should kill the demon, and call the army, while only a few wounded apprentices are left. Demon Rihaltsam wonders why all these people are looking at him with fear, as mushrooms pop out of his head one after another. The people call him poison, as they haste to run away from him. But Demon Rihaltsam implores them to wait. Just then, a bullet flies through his body, so he looks back and sees smoke fade out of a gun. He sees a group of soldiers standing, as a young man orders the men to ready their weapons and fire at once. They take aim at Demon Rihaltsam, and on his order, the gun shoots, to which Rihaltsam's body is riddled with holes. The young man then orders to stop firing the magic guns, as it's just like the report said, that bullets of magic elements doesn't work on the demon. The young man is Captain Harold, and he explains that they are short-staffed already, and it turns out to be something big, to which the others ask if they should charge in, since the reports mentioned that those spores are poison. Harold replies that equip the magic circuits to change elements and fire in one volley, to which Rihaltsam gets terribly scared. Then, he looks at the window pane beside him and can't understand what he is seeing, and then he gets bombarded with the fire. The temperature makes him scream out in pain. Harold questions if fire is effective because the demon is rapidly gaining resistance, so he orders them to stop. Then, he orders them to draw their swords and charge towards the monster, but Rihaltsam spots out a hiding place as the soldiers run towards him. Quickly, he melts into the gutter under him, which surprises the captain. Harold grits his teeth in frustration as Demon Rihaltsam escapes through the sewers. Meanwhile, Kaylin declares the estimate of the damage caused by the sky salmon attacks and the money they can expect to gain for selling the magic stones, and announces that she would like to give a special bonus to those who did their jobs particularly well. As her subordinates watch her, she calls out Ari and Roa. She congratulates them on gauging out the sky salmon's power during the attack, and says they have performed a dangerous duty to spread the information quickly. Next is Litna, who fought bravely to protect the non-combatant, and it is thanks to him none of them were harmed. So she laughs and comments that since many people are hot-blooded, she trusts his ability to command the ones who will immediately want to run ahead. Litna says that he is humbled to hear this, as he is supposed to be retired from active duty, but he is glad he could help. Lastly, Kaylin mentions Rust. Kaylin describes how quickly he prepared to take out all those sky salmon, while making sure he didn't cause any additional damage to the camp. It has truly been a great achievement. She continues that it greatly reduced the damage they suffered, as one wrong move could have put this entire operation of development on hold, so she doesn't have enough words to thank him. Kaylin happily says that she is very glad of Rust deciding to join them, to which the crowd start clapping. All the people inside the tent clamor in joy. Rust narrates that at this moment, all the bad feelings he has in his heart for letting Rihaltsam get away feels like that are melting away. Kaylin declares that she issued an official complaint with the Alchemist Association about Master Rihaltsam attacking against Rust. Also mentions that the sky salmon attacked the capital. She adds that the Alchemist Association suffered a lot of damage, while there is a lot of chaos in the royal castle as well. Rust narrates that even though he has no intention of going back, he is not indifferent to this bad news about his old workplace. He interjects that they should take this opportunity to press forwards and start distributing the magic crystals all at once. To which Kaylin happily replies that she agrees, even though it means a lot of work for Rust. She declares that the next batch of Kajero fruits will arrive in the next few days, so she is prioritizing the development and maintenance of their roads. Since the neighboring lords are quite excited about this deal too, she will hammer out all the details, so any and all cooperation will be appreciated, to which everyone starts cheering for her. Then, Rust gets back to his tent, recalling shyly how people cheered him on afterwards as well. But suddenly, he gets surprised to see that the small lizard is awake and making sounds at him. Rust wonders if the lizard shed its skin, and wings grew out of him, and then he surprisedly announces that it's not a lizard, but a dragon. Rust says that this is the first time he has seen one. He got totally fooled because he never expected a dragon, so he asks why it was in the water to begin with, and what should he now do with this. Then, he asks if it is hungry, then pulls out a toffee and offers to it. The little dragon sneezes from sniffing it, and lies back down, seeing which Rust pops the toffee in his mouth, and asks if the lizard not know that it's food. He remembers that dragons only eat meat, and maybe he still has some monster parts lying around, while the dragon cringes on its bed. Then, the dragon points at the potion bottles with its tail, to which Rust says that he would feed it safe amounts for now. He offers little potion to him in a saucer, which the dragon licks calmly. After this, Rust sees that the potion has been cleaned out, and says the dragon licked it all, even though other animals instinctively hate it, while he wonders if the dragon wants more of it. He calls out Rose, and narrates that he would monitor its condition, so he counts on Rose if things go awry. Then, he looks at his scroll and deems it curious, because it's not having any negative reaction, while the dragon seeps the potion. Rust says that he should give it a name, and afterwards, he explains the story to Kaylin, to which she questions about the dragon. Kaylin replies that dragons are a legend, and it would be the first discovery in several hundred years. But Rust says that they still don't know anything for sure. He did feel that it possesses intelligence when he rescued it, so there is a possibility of it being an actual dragon. Kaylin says that the ability to reject the smell of the grass is not proof that it possesses intelligence, as she bites on the sky salmon canapé. So Rust replies that it was just one example. Nevertheless, he would carry on continuing the extent of its intelligence, as he sips on sky salmon fins with sake. That being said, Kaylin asks if Rust knows what needs to be done with it, as this is his expertise. To which Rust says that he has thought about what to do if it really is a dragon. Finally, he tells her that he should be able to bind it with a contract. Kaylin questions the contract, and asks if they are not something from hundreds of years ago, like a fairy tale. Rust informs that the old fairy tales and folk tales are 90% false, but 10% true, and he would make sure to take every necessary precaution before doing anything. To which Kaylin happily says that he has her permission. Hearing this, Rust expresses his delight and thanks her, but before he could finish, Kaylin mentions that she wants to be there as well. Rust replies he understands, and asks her if she finds it interesting, to which Kaylin agrees. Afterwards, Rust asks why Roa and Ari are here. Roa replies that they are guards, while Rust wonders if she hates lizards, since she has been worried from the moment she saw it. But Ari apologizes and says that there shouldn't be a problem. Rust observes that he doesn't see the shine of magic elements in Ari's eyes. It looks like her future sight is not activating. It means that a fight with the white dragon is not likely. He asks Roa and Ari to stay behind Hippopo just in case, to which Kaylin asks why she is not asked to do the same. And Rust replies because she is the strongest one there. Then, the sisters ask how exactly the contract is formed with alchemy. While taking his robe off, Rust informs that half-hearted alchemy would bounce off if this really is a dragon. But stronger alchemy would probably hurt it, so Ari asks how is going to do it. After this, Rust asks them if they know about primordial magic. Roa replies that she does not, since all she knows is that it revolves around life, and uses blood as an intermediary. Hearing this, Rust replies that according to his senior, primordial magic itself is a dragon. So all popular stories about humans and dragons from hundreds of years ago are related to primordial magic. Then, Kaylin announces a timeout. She tells Ari about the consequences of bringing up unnecessary things, because Rust could go on and on with this, while Ari says it sounds very interesting. Finally, Rust clears his throat and orders Rose to begin. He narrates that even though it is young, it is still a dragon, so it could easily attack and take out his arm. Even though Rose should be able to stop it just in time, he needs to be alert. Kaylin asks from the back if Rust is using the potion tray as a bait, but the sisters ask her to be silent. Rust narrates that he should have brought some concentrated magic element solution, as they are necessary to make high-quality potions, which are a pain to make. And this reminds him of the concentrated magic elements solutions that he left back in the Alchemist Association. He hopes that they are safely stored. From what he read in the fairy tales, forming a contract is more about the primordial magic of the dragon. So he pulls out an antique knife. Seeing this, Ari asks what that is, to which he replies that it's a special knife made from twin linehorn. He adds that the contract ritual triggers with a blood offering from the human as he places the knife on his hand. This knife uses capillary action to make the blood flow from the tip to the pattern carved on the blade, and creates the blood crest with his medallion. He points the items towards the dragon, and introduces himself as Rust. Then, he says he is an alchemist, and through the pattern on his blood, he seeks to form a contract. Finally, an alchemic polygonal shield with magical glow appears in front of him. Rust looks carefully into the shield, and says this is a first for him seeing this case. This looks like an ancient language. Then, Kalen calls on Rust, and asks if there is something, to which Rust gets confused. He points at the writing, and asks if they three can't see it, to which Kalen asks the sisters if they see it. The sisters replies that they don't, to which Rust says he sees. He tells them that there is a polygonal plate in front of him. He doesn't know what it is, as he orders Rose to protect his friends. Then, Rose does what it's told, while Kalen says she does not need it, but Rust insists just in case. He narrates that he is the only one who sees these plates that look like alchemy rings, but are probably not. Then, he inserts his hand inside the floating plate, after which he feels a magical reaction, and pulls his hand back immediately. He takes a look at the dragon to see that it is flapping its tail. Rust asks the dragon if it wants him to touch it, as Kalen observes closely. She asks if Rust is trying to touch something, but Roa replies that she does not see anything with her magic eyes. Kalen says since Roa's eyes can see through obstructing techniques, then it could be primordial magic. Meanwhile, Rust intriguingly touches the plate with his fingertips and narrates as a completely new phenomenon and graphic. He questions if touching different places have different meanings, what these letters mean. He cannot be careless, he needs to act with caution, admitting that he knows it all, but his researching nature is pushing him. As he touches them, the letters change, so it could be numbers, but there is a regularity to them, so Rust wonders what would happen if he keeps touching it. Meanwhile, it looks like the little white dragon in front of him can understand them. He looks at his hand holding the alchemic medallion, and asks what light is emitting from it. Then, the medallion shows a black sigil on one side. After this, a large glow of bright light is emitted from the polygonal plate. In a hurry, he orders Rose again. Right away, the vines protect everyone in the tent as the tent goes completely white. Then, as the light fades, Rust looks back and sees a black tattoo. The dragon has grown in size, and a large tattoo is imprinted on its chest. Seeing this, Rust says that it has gotten bigger and extends his hand cautiously. He pets the dragon on its chin, which it seems to enjoy. Rust decides to name the dragon, and take Say from Sacred, and look as it runs through the sky. He narrates that this is how he successfully formed a contract with his dragon, called Saluk. Later that night in the camp, someone calls out to Rust and says she is coming inside. Rust mentions that Kalen doesn't usually come around at night, and asks what is up with her, to which she replies nothing. With a big smile, she shows him a bottle and says they have not done this in a while. Then, she opens up a crate and says she is borrowing these to use as glasses, while complimenting his carefulness. Rust replies that he cannot ignore it, as one speck of dust could cause an unsuccessful transmutation. Kalen informs that she even managed snacks without Litna noticing, so Rust asks Rose to make them a small dining room, seeing Kalen has come prepared. Then, Kalen pours drink in Rust's glass as the dragon watches. Seeing this, Kalen asks if Rust is leaving the dragon completely free, while Rust offers some drink to the dragon. Afterwards, the dragon flies off and sits on his shoulder, which brings joy in Kalen's eyes. She jokingly says that the potion he makes tastes like grass and tastes bad, while they cheer into celebration. Then, they bump the drinks as Kalen toasts it to meeting someone new. Rust agrees and toasts it to his newly found friend. He narrates how thankful he is to Kalen, because he would not be here if she did not invite him. He might be wasting away in the Alchemist Association, or have quit anyway to walk a completely different path, so it is all thanks to her that he has met everyone here. Then, he drinks it and painfully asks Kalen what it is. Kalen explains that it's called Fire Spirit, which has not been tested yet, so it could be pretty strong, to which Rust decides to mix some water into it. He places the drink down and asks what Kalen wants to talk about. Rust narrates that knowing how Kalen is, he doubts that she really came here just for a drink. So Kalen replies that she is making plans to go ahead with the road construction that she has talked about, as it will be in a few days. But she wants Rust's help too. Then, Kalen extends her glass and says she will be counting on Rust once again and pours it down in one go. Seeing her laugh, Rust thinks about how Kalen can really drink and narrates that Kalen is usually pretty easygoing. But she has a lot of responsibilities, so he thinks of keeping her company today, because that's what the friends are for. Next morning, Rust seems frustrated over something he can't understand. He says that something in him has reduced since he formed the contract, because the numbers he saw were changing, but he doesn't see any changes in his body. He narrates that the transcribed scroll reads the physical information of its subject and displays it, but for non-physical things like magic elements, he uses the pendulum. Does it mean that non-material things beside magic elements exist in this world, as he thinks that theories piling up can be fun and frustrating too? Then, he looks at the source of his frustration, and tells it to bring out that plate again. But Saylook doesn't understand him. Rust wonders if that was just for the contract, but maybe there is something else to it. Just then, Ari calls out to him from behind, to which Rust asks if it's time, since they are going to help with the road construction today. As they settle on Hippopo, Rust tells Saylook to stay with Rose, because they are going out for a while. Hearing this, Saylook flies out immediately. Then, it lands right on Rust's shoulder, seeing which Rust thinks of how light their bodies are. He asks Saylook if it wants to go with them, to which he responds in agreement. Finally, Rust accepts, and they're off to help with the road construction. Afterwards, Hippopo gallops forward, while Saylook flies through the sky gloriously, to which Ari comments it's beautiful. Rust agrees, and says that he didn't expect dragons to be this graceful, while Ari praises him for being the first person in 100 years to form a contract with a dragon. She adds that the scope of his knowledge goes beyond alchemy, so even though they were watching, they had no idea what was happening. But Rust humbly replies that it is not a big deal, and thinks that even he didn't know what happened that night. He narrates that he only told what he did with the half-transparent plates, as he has never seen something like that, but he was the only person who could see it. Hence, they are not going to know more about it unless they can bring it out again. Because being able to replicate something is very important in research. Otherwise, it's nothing more than vague stuff that can only be imagined, but not argued upon. Then, he looks at Saylook and sees it enjoying itself, but Ari notices something with her magic eyes. All of a sudden, she shouts that monsters are coming, to which Rust worriedly asks where from. Then, Ari raises her staff up in the air. After this, she quickly jumps off of Hippopo, and smashes her staff right in the ground in front of them, as she answers that the monsters are coming from below. Rust narrates how reliable Ari can be, because she is able to see them before they even surface, while Ari says she barely manages to kill it. It's hard. Ari informs that the monster is a mole type, hearing which, Rust calls on Saylook, and thinks that she easily defeated armored salmons. But she says that she barely just took this one out. He orders Saylook to fly high up, while Ari shouts 2 more are coming, and tells him to take care of the one on the right. Then, the mole-type monsters crawl towards them from within the ground. Rust orders Hippopo to take care of the one on the right, to which he raises his feet to pounce it. Then, Hippopo pounces on it hard, while Rust sees that the beast has multiple legs in its abdomen, which makes it surprisingly fast. Rust says that they can't let it run away, and declares that he is coming. Just as he is about to get off Hippopo, Saylook comes in fiercely from the sky, and slashes the monster with its claw. Both Ari and Rust get surprised seeing this, as the monster lays dead in front of them. After this, Saylook swiftly flies back up in the air. Rust comments wow, as he is amazed to see the strength of a dragon. Then, he sees the monster that Ari took down retained its shape, while Ari asks if he found something, as Rust puts on his safety gloves and pulls out his alchemic scroll. He inspects and says that it is a chimera-type monster, which is a mole, mouse, and centipede combined. But he questions it, as he spots a few mushrooms popping out right in the middle of its abdomen. He comments that apparently this monster is a mixture of 4 things, which is not something they see around there. Hearing which Ari agrees. Rust thinks this must be a new species, but wonders what caught Hippopo and Saylook's attention, while Hippopo nods negatively to this. Seeing this, Rust says that Hippopo is sensing something unpleasant, but he cannot see poison or anything on the transcribed scroll, so Rust asks Hippopo if he shouldn't collect the dead monster. Seeing that the beasts are not sure with this either, Rust says they should burn the monster just in case, and asks Ari if it is alright to spend a little time on this, to which she agrees. Rust tells her to watch, and reminds her to not touch them without protective equipment, while he splashes little potion on Hippopo and Saylook's limbs. Afterwards, he lights the monster on fire. But he seems to have noticed something moving for a moment, and wonders if he imagines it, while Ari calls him from the back, saying they are ready to travel again. Lastly, the monster is not on the ground anymore, and seems to have dug underground to escape. After some time, Rust looks upon the construction work, and narrates that this is how work is being done. The road is stretching from the neighboring dominion to their camp, and it's right at the entrance of the borderland. He smells something cooking, because work sites have an indescribable charm. Then, someone calls on him, and he spots Mr. Memels, who has not met in a while. Rust asks if he is here because of the road work. To this, Memels replies yes, and informs that he is here as an inspector, as this is a large undertaking. Then, he bows down to Rust, expressing his gratitude for his help. But Rust hesitantly says that it is very important for them to stabilize the circulation of goods quickly too. While Hippopo puts in the work, Memels compliments how his transmuted beasts work wonderfully. He says that even the alchemists in his Dominion's army are in awe of Rust's skills. Then, Rust asks if Memels could introduce him to the alchemists, because it would make things easier if Memels acts as the intermediary, since he is an outsider. Memels accepts the request with pleasure, which makes Rust feel good to have an acquaintance. After this, the alchemists stand in unison, and say that they are honored to meet him, while Rust thinks that they don't have any master ranks, and he doesn't want them to stand in attention every time. Rust says that he is thankful, and asks them to not be so formal, because he is the one new here, as he doesn't have the expertise for this sort of public work. He smiles, and requests them to teach him about this, so they can all accomplish the goal together while the group agrees with him. Rust is glad to have broken the ice with them, as he looks upon Saluk over his head. Right then, Saluk drops down and lands on his shoulder. Seeing this, the group freezes in awe. Collectively, they say that the rumors of the legendary are indeed true, while another compliments its beautiful white scales, and another says that Rust is not only incredible for his inventions, but is employing a dragon as well. Rust blushes and smiles, then Saluk senses something. Ari calls on him, as she announces that the pseudo-moles are back in larger numbers this time. Hearing this, Rust commands her to inform everyone on the site about the peculiarities of these monsters, as he thinks that the station combat engineers will be able to tackle the attack. But he gets ready just in case. A leader declares that the enemy is coming, and orders the soldiers to take combat positions in the center. Also, the magic unit to form a line, while an alchemist girl sends out transmuted beasts. The alchemist group casts their magic scrolls. Then, a dark beast with huge claws climbs out of the magical hexagonal plates. 3 huge transmuted bears scream angrily. Seeing which, Rust narrates that these bear beasts are pretty popular among alchemists in the army, as they are skillful with their hands, and very powerful. But it looks like each person can only manifest one. After this, Ari shouts that the enemy will come from there, pointing in a direction. She counts 3 to 1, and when the count hits 0, something large bursts out from the ground in the distance. So the leader orders soldiers to fire the magic guns. The dark monster is hit with the barrage of bullets, confirming the impact. But Rust observes that the effect is quite negligible. Upon observation, he says that the ones he saw earlier were a mixture of a lot of things, but the one he sees now does not seem to be mixed with anything. The leader orders a second volley of magic fire, which too hits the monster all over the body. This too is a direct hit, with little effect again, while Rust narrates that this enemy is a colony type. Rust thinks that it's not that there are a few things mixed together, but it's actually a very large number of regular-sized moles that are huddled together forming the shape of a giant mole. Then, the large transmuted bear beasts are ordered to charge forward, to which they go and attack the giant mole monster. The alchemists comment that the monster is just too big, as the beasts can only scrape the moles on the surface. After this, the giant mole lands a powerful slash, sending one of the bears flying into the air. Seeing this, they comment that neither the magic guns nor the transmuted beasts are working on this monster. But right then, someone says that he can take it down. Rust comes forward and says they can leave it to him, so the leader asks everyone else to take some distance and stay alert. Then, he pulls out multiple scrolls and casts the composite activation spell. 6 hexagonal alchemy plates appear, after which he casts a combined spell. Next, the hexagonal plates combine into a larger alchemy plate, but the dark monster charges towards it, seeing which everyone tells him to watch out, while the big plate manifests a glowy magic. After this, Rust casts the serial manifestation of Hippopo Brothers spell, and a giant Hippopo beast walks out of the alchemy plate. As the monster tries to scratch Hippopo, it lets out a loud roar and pounds hard on the ground. The dark monster shakes from this, while Rust adds that he is not done and commands smaller Hippopos to chase it. After this, the largest Hippopo raises in the sky, and body slams the monster heavily. This crushes the monster in pieces, after which the smaller Hippopos trample them all together. But a single mushroom bud escapes from this chaos, which immediately gets spotted by Rust and Saluk. So he asks the rest of the alchemists to step down, as Saluk launches a beam of magic fire breath straight into the sky. The beam hits the mushroom and burns it in the air, to which the others ask if all of this is over. They gossip about the transmuted Hippopos, and ask about the dragon's breath, which they only hear about in stories. Meanwhile, Rust doesn't reply and casts a return spell on the hippopos. The crowd cheers and shows gratitude towards Rust, while the manifested hippopos return back into the large hexagonal plate. Rust narrates that static is running through part of the transmutation circle. These are new composite magic circle scrolls that he made on recent research. He had to debut them very suddenly, but he is glad the activation went well. It's all thanks to the abundant monster material in the borderland, and the advances in his research that came about thanks to Kalen. But it looks like he has work to do in terms of stability of the magic circle, so he can't use it for very long. Then, Saluk returns back on his shoulder. After this, the whole crowd cheers his name once again, so Rust accepts the ovation dramatically. Rust narrates that he never thought he would actually see a dragon breath. While all that concentrated energy was shot out, there were no consequences to the area around them, because no one got hurt. While the cheer carries on, people gossip about how high the dragon went up and how its breath pierced the clouds. Seeing this, Rust questions if they expect him to say something, and wonders how he should respond to their expectation, to share the credit with everyone. Then, he diligently informs the commander that the monster has been defeated, to which the commander gets stunned. He shouts out praising Rust for the excellent work, after which he orders his subordinates to get back to work in their posts. Rust narrates that it is expected from such a leader, because he was able to tell that Rust is giving away the credit to everyone, which gives the soldiers a bit more confidence too. Then, Rust says that he would now go clean up the hole made from the Hippopo brothers, but Ari stops his path, as she complains that he has pushed himself too hard. Rust understands that Ari knows there was no harm done from the composite circle. Ari seems worried about Rust, and says that all of it has been just luck, but apologizes right away. She adds that it's wonderful that he has the attitude to protect the people around him, and the power to make it happen. But on the other hand, she says not to forget to look after himself, because she gets worried. She and her sister were both helped by Rust. Also, everyone in the Admiral Dominion are very important in his eyes, so she asks him to direct that care to himself, because they consider him very important as well. Hearing this, Rust narrates that his heart tickles, as this would not have played out this way in his old job, because when he pushed himself a little too far, they would present him with more tasks. Since Ari can see futures that possibly could happen, which means that she may be more sensitive than others about this sort of thing. So Rust apologizes and says that she is right to worry. He would be more careful next time. Meanwhile, Sam drags along in the sewers with rats as his friends. He sees a rat climb his hand and get absorbed by his parasitic jello-like body, as he says that he doesn't see many rats lately. He curses Rust for being the annoying man and destroying all the pseudo-moles that he sent after him. He narrates that since his evolution, he controlled living beings through parasites, and if they were especially compatible, he could share part of their senses. As the rat combines with Mole Chimera, he adds that these beings are not powerful enough to defeat Rust alone. His delusion towards Rust is the only thing, that is retaining his mind as a human. He sits alone in his disgusting moldy nest, and thinks of getting more useful power to beat Rust. Then, a species informs him that he has intruders on the way, so he grabs it, as he narrates that by absorbing being infected with the parasite, he could gain their memories. He smiles seeing the henchmen who had abandoned him previously, so he decides to welcome them. At the same time, Rust describes how peaceful the day is, as they are done helping for the day. He lies against Hippopo and says it's time they go back home since the sun is setting. He adds that it sure is nice to be done with work and go back while it is still bright out. Those sleepless nights in the Alchemist Association are like distant memories now, and although he has been very busy since he quit, but the days have been fulfilling. Rust narrates that he met Tala when she was cursed, saw surprise and gratitude in the people of Toma when he made the magic crystals, met his friend from school days again, investigated the cause and treated a disease, made those magic items for his co-workers Ari and Roa, and Sam crumbled some nonsense about him returned to the association, and then got angry and attacked, but he beat him back. Then a bunch of sky salmon attacked the camp shortly after which he formed a strange contract with the dragon Saluk. He spots Saluk as it sits on his shoulder and drops a monster magic stone in his hand. He asks if it really is guarding the sky, because a magic stone means that he took down a monster. Rust narrates that Saluk isn't just a dragon, because nowhere in any book is it written that when a contract is formed with a dragon, a transmutation circle appears on its body. The way he met Saluk in the poisoned pond by a familiar of the shaman was strange too. He felt fluctuations of magic elements and saw something that looked like a magic circle in the water. That might have been Saluk's power as a dragon, so he comments that it must be some principle other than alchemy. So, not knowing that power is a problem, and mentions that Saluk is full of mysteries. Then, Memels calls him, and says he is glad that he is still here, because he wants to show him something. Memels says that an alchemist like Rust might figure it out, because the alchemists from his dominion say the same. To which Rust replies he is unsure that his experience meets Memels' needs. Memels praises him for being young, but he has come to know very well that his technique and knowledge is incredible, hearing which Rust wonders what warranted this opinion. They stumble upon a dig site, seeing which surprises Rust. Memels explains, when a transmuted beast was removing rocks from the road, it found this huge stone tablet. Rust comments that it would have been an obstacle if it stayed here. Memels asks what it could be, because their alchemists inform them about the flow of magic present, so they stop digging it up right away. Rust kneels down and assesses the tablet, and finds some carved grooves. He says that it's good practice to carefully examine something unknown, so he would test one thing. From his kit bag, he pulls out a concentrated magic element solution. The alchemists freak out seeing this, asking if they can touch it, while another praises the bottle even without measuring it. One of the alchemists takes out the magic element measuring rod dowsing. The rod dowsing starts to rotate rapidly, to which he comments that he has never seen such a highly concentrated solution. Then, Rust says he would also be using a luminescent solution, where luminescent elements are melted in, but illuminates the movement of magic elements. He shakes the vial, demonstrating that the magic elements in the atmosphere shine as they pass through the solution. He decides to have this solution hang around in cloud form, like the cloud-style water supply device he planted in the lake, to solve the camp's water problem. After this, he declares it's ready as he pours it on the tablet. The carved marks let out a magic glow, seeing which the alchemists get reasonably surprised. A beautiful rainbow cloud is emitted from the tablet, which is hanging around in different colors, as the magic elements released by the stone tablet are reacting to luminescent solution. Rust asks if the experiment looks pretty, as he informs about his mentor telling him that stone tablet relics from ancient civilizations are widely available in remote areas like this. So the result, as everyone can see, it absorbs magic elements, while continuously expelling them in a set direction. Then, Memels compliments Rust, saying he knows a lot despite his age. He asks if it would be dangerous to remove it, to which Rust replies that nothing would happen unless a lot of magic elements are poured down on it. Then, he says he would do it, and order Hippopo and Rose with the task. Next, Hippopo pulls it out as Rose binds it with vines, seeing with Memels thanks him again for the help. Finally, Rust asks Memels where he wants it placed, while the alchemist comments that all of this is beyond his expectation. Rust narrates that it has been a few weeks since he started helping with work on the road, but the work his transmuted beasts were doing is done. Someone just told him that Kaylin has another job, probably because she knows that he is heading to her tent for the first time in a while. He is surprised to find Kaylin not in the tent, and the atmosphere seems heavy and gloomy. This reminds him of when he was still in the Alchemist Association, where they would send him to help departments that were approaching deadline, and just when he decides to leave, someone grabs his robe. Kaylin compliments the timing. She looks like she has not slept in a while, to which Rust wonders where the tough, energetic version of her has gone off to. Rust asks her something about a new job, while she pulls him away, saying she needs help with this first. A pile of applications lie on the table. The communications room is in chaos, as the personnel complains that someone has been up for 2 days non-stop. There is too much out of order, and another asking for a healing potion. Rust gets nervous seeing this commotion. He asks what documents are these, to which Kaylin replies that these are people applying to move here. Hearing this, Rust asks if she is getting popular, to which Kaylin replies that it is all too much, since it is increasing very quickly, and requests to deal with a pile as she sits down. Rust narrates that Kaylin likes to move, not sit around. She hates desk work, and asks if there is anything he can use as a reference. Then, a man calls him from the back with a paper in his hand, to which Rust nervously nods in agreement. He begins approving the papers with high priority, and after some hours, Rust says that he is finally done with the last paper. Then he looks for Kaylin, to discover that she has soundly fallen asleep. Rust comments that her sleeping face is very loose, as he narrates that she doesn't look like the war hero, who was given this land for her feats on the battlefield. so he shakes her awake, saying she should not sleep here. Then, he asks her what the new job is about. Kaylin wipes her eyes and says that the camp will be too cramped before long, because they are getting too many requests from people that want to move here. Apparently, a lot of strange incidents have been happening in the capital lately, and since a lot of people want to move here, she asks him to look for other territories besides this camp that could be suitable for territorial expansion, which Rust complies to and asks if there is any condition. Kaylin gets surprised seeing his immediate response and jokingly says that she has told Roa all about it, so he should talk to her on the way. After this, Rust and Roa rides on Hippopo as Roa asks if they have arrived yet, while Rust narrates that they are advancing through the wasteland as per Kaylin's orders. They have been following a river for a few days now, looking for suitable lands on the way to the sea. While they faced armored salmon, ivy snake on the way. Then, they battle twin linehorn and hellhorse as well. Rust thinks that it's all monsters they are used to seeing. He is hoping to get new materials, but so far he is kind of disappointed. They can avoid monster attacks with Roa's long-distance sight and Hippopo's abilities. It looks like her glasses magic item is working well because she can see through things and far away at the same time, within the limits of what she can handle. Then, Rust asks how the glasses are working since it has been some time using them. He narrates that Roa's magic eyes were the type that hindered her daily life. It was to the point where face cloth magic items she used for a long time couldn't contain them. He thinks that the face cloth has been a burden for years, while Roa replies that the new magic glasses are perfect. She happily replies that she feels like every day is more fun, it's all thanks to Rust. Hearing this, Rust replies that it is good, as he feels proud from seeing that smile. After some time, Roa senses something and tells Rust that someone is fighting up ahead. Rust understands that it must be happening near the sea and asks if it's actually a mimic, because Roa would know if it was, to which she replies that she would. Rust jumps on Hippopo and tells Roa that they should go quickly because there is still a bit left to go before they reach the sea. As Roa grabs on his hand to jump, Rust thinks that it wasn't long when she hadn't grabbed his hand, which means she has opened up a lot recently. He comments that it is getting windy and the sea is just up ahead, while Roa spots the fight happening from a distance. A woman seems to be fighting humanoid monsters with fish heads, holding staffs in their hands. Seeing this, Rust says that it doesn't look good. All these mermen are attacking one person, to which Roa replies that they should help. They notice silver hair on the woman, who is holding a book and questions who it might be. After this, the woman prays on goddess Eresla to grant her blessing to her blade and let the eyes of the three faces watch conflict far and wide. She bravely faces the merman and finishes her prayers, asking for the enemies to become soft and sharp to turn dull. Then, she lances a spinning slash with her sword on the merman, while Roa compliments her strength. Seeing this, Rust narrates that it's not alchemy or curses, it's something only qualified people can use. It's the power of a blessing to a servant of God. He adds that she is heavily outnumbered and decides to help with Hippopo. Rust recognizes Tala and recalls her saying that she was going to the capital, while she notices Rust and run towards him. Then, she falls on his lap, seeing that Rust understands that she is weak. So he transcribes in diagnostic scroll, and as she doesn't have any large wounds, he decides to do first aid before they leave. As Tala mutters, Rust tells her to not talk while he treats her. He determinedly manifests a few potion vials on the ground near him, while Roa calls him. She has taken a defensive stance and tells him about the monsters coming from the sea. Rust replies that he would hurry, and then quickly casts the mix spell. He narrates that her temperature is low, and she is losing consciousness, so he needs to watch for the oxygen saturation in her blood and the density of magic elements, while making sure there aren't any factors that will get in the way of replenishing the magic elements. He then pours the potion in her mouth, thinking that the body will absorb the potion, even if it doesn't reach her stomach. Then, he happily says that her breathing and pulse are stable. After this, he sees Roa fighting, and thinks that the sea is really full of monsters, and apparently they are under the control of something, which he finds really bothersome. He orders Roa to retreat. Then, as he climbs up on Hippopo, he tells Saluk they are leaving, and thinks that it's time to use that prototype. After this, he presses on the button of what looks like a bomb, and flings it right across the battleground. He then chases towards Roa really fast, with his arm extended wide to catch her on the way. Finally, he grabs onto her and pulls her on Hippopo to escape the sea monster attacks, while he instructs Tala to close her eyes to rest. Rust recalls him saying that there are unstable magic crystals and a light-emitting solution sealed in this magic item, so the magic elements in the atmosphere shine as they pass through the solution. The pressure of the ignition makes the magic crystals explode into magic elements instantly, and the light-emitting solution spewing out at the same time produces an intense light. Even though it's not powerful enough to kill, it's a nice disturbance, so it's most effective at times like these. These mermen and the ones with them are used to living underwater, so this light must really be intense to them. This and the storm of magic elements should throw them into chaos, as he says that they should get out of there while they can. Afterwards, Tala opens her eyes and sees Roa. Rust greets Tala and asks her how she is feeling, to which she remembers that she was saved again. She then clasps her hands together and says that she can't thank him enough for saving her again, even though she hasn't fulfilled the initial deal yet. Rust comforts her by saying that she shouldn't be so serious. Tala then thanks Roa and Hippopo and adds that there is a lot she wants to talk about. Before that, she shyly asks if there is a river or something nearby, so Rust tells Hippopo to take them there. And as they leave for the river, Rust manifests an alchemic scroll. He summons Aroma Vine, which is a transmuter beast that has different characteristics from Rose. He asks Aroma to do the same as usual, to which the beast transforms into a vine cabin, which is kind of like a fairy tale. Rust narrates that it looks like Rose at a glance, but this is Aroma Vine's true power. This is one of 100 of Aroma Vine's fragrances. It repels weak monsters, and it smells like citrus fruit. He calls it an anti-monster fragrance. He enters while saying that mermen tend to not go too far inland. There are other monsters on land, but this anti-monster fragrance should be enough to protect them. The only issue is the fact that Saluk is not a fan of this smell. Rust praises the beasts and thanks it for a job well done, to which the leaves nudge against him. He then thanks the beast for cleaning up the sand on him, narrating that it really likes the cleanliness. Then, he manifests the transmuted plate and a twin linehorn meat from the morning that is wrapped in Aroma Vine leaves. Rust happily decides to make dinner for his friends. He transcribes a scroll, cuts the meat in half while saying that it will be a simple steak, which has been cut equally. As the steak sizzles on the plate, he assesses the heat denaturation of the protein and comments that it is looking good. He asks for some herbal fragrance from the Aroma Vine's leaf and says that it should mask the smell of the meat. Finally, delicious twin linehorn herb steak has been served on the plate, as he compliments that it turned out great in Alchemist terms. Then, Roa enters and praises the smell, while Rust welcomes them back. Roa gets shocked to know that Rust can cook, as she thought that he can only make grass bricks. Tala touches the Aroma Vine and compliments how Rust has everything covered, and then she clasps her hand in gratitude, while Rust asks them to eat up before the food gets cold. After this, they sit down to eat. Roa takes a morsel in and says that his cooking is good, even though it feels off somehow. Tala compliments that the food is very good. The rose tea she had smelled great too, and the herbs used on this meat reminds her of a refreshing grassy field. The meat itself is also cooked to perfection, retaining all its taste, to which Rust thanks her for all the compliments. Rust narrates that even though Roa is eating, she says some pretty bad things casually, wondering what she means by the meat being off, because he checked its condition perfectly while cooking. As the dinner comes to end, Rust decides it's time to get into it. He asks investigatively, because he thought she is going to the capital, and yet she is here on the beach. Tala says she would begin by telling what happened since they parted ways, and she went to the capital. As they listen to her story, she narrates that she investigated the Alchemist Association to follow the track of the circuit boards, and finds it surprising that they are addressed to the military. Then, she comments that they really were diverted, and adds that she knows a follower of the goddess Eresla in a chivalric order, so she asked her for help. She states that there was a big uproar when this was discovered through the chivalric order, and as a result, the chief of the equipment management department was arrested. But after she received permission to search his house, she discovered traces that the shaman had been there. Tala says that according to eyewitnesses, the shaman stayed in the capital, but just as a large-scale search with the chivalric order was being put together, a swarm of armored salmon with wings attacked the capital. Hearing this, Rust says that he has heard about the Alchemist Association's building being damaged, so Tala replies that strangely enough, the armored salmons were specifically after the Alchemist Association. She adds that there have been reports of sightings of the shaman after that, but one day he disappeared completely, because that was the day when a demon appeared in the capital. Rust repeats the word demon and says this is the first time he is hearing of it, while Tala confirms that it's still just a rumor. She adds that apparently this is a new kind of demon. Rust asks that there are said to be only 7 kinds of demons, which Roa agrees with. She recalls Lady Kaylin defeating one, bringing the number from 8 to 7. Rust thinks of Kaylin as invincible. She is invincible if she can work that strength of hers against an opponent, and mentions that if this is a new demon, then it's not of the current 7. As Rust asks about the demon's whereabouts, Tala replies that it managed to escape, so no one knows, while she narrates that things have been busy with the diverted boards as well. She adds something else catching her attention, because the shaman sighting stopped right when the demon appeared. Hearing this, Rust replies that the shaman is definitely connected to this demon. After this, Tala says that she finally got a lead on the shaman, so she couldn't just go back to square one, since it appears that there is a connection, so she was headed towards the Northern Sea, where the closest demon is said to be. Hearing this, Rust confirms if it is the demon of the Northern Sea Abyss, which Tala recognizes, but lets him know that her boat capsized. Vine Aroma then offers her some drink, while Tala ends the story by saying that they know the rest. Rust wonders if it was divine protection that helped her get to the shore, while Tala asks what Rust and Roa are doing around here. After hearing that they came to look for a site for a new town, she says that a lot of weird things have been happening in the capital. So many people are thinking about going to where Kaylin the Demon Slayer is. Hearing this, Rust repeats mysterious things, so Tala replies that it was nothing important at first. Bugs and rats begin to disappear. People were happy about harmful beings being gone. But soon, stray cats and dogs begin to vanish too, so it was thought after the small animals are gone, it now feeds on something else. But then, people started disappearing as well. She points out that people without a definite place to live, or adventurers from other lands started vanishing. To which Rust replies, that things really do look bad. As Tala continues, she says that food has been rotting much quicker in the capital. If people leave it for a while, it soon grows mold. This catches Rust's attention, as he says this is very serious, because the food supply will not be able to catch up, depending on how quickly it rots. Tala says that the Alchemist Association should be dealing with this, but they show no signs of rebuilding yet. So people's uncertainty is leading to rumors spreading, and there are also witness reports that the flying armored salmon came from the Northern Ocean, so this phenomena is being tied to the demon. Tala explains this is the reason people are pouring out of the capital, while people have also been bringing up his name. Rust gets surprised to hear, as Tala says that they talk about the great alchemist who was originally from the association, but later went to the Night Kaylin Admiral's dominion. As Rust blushes, she adds that they say he cured a local disease right after he arrived, and he has a legendary dragon at his service. Rust replies that this is a problem with the latest telecommunications devices. Rumors spread very quickly, and adds that he quit the Alchemist Association, so he doesn't have anything to do with it anymore. After this, Tala says she has a request, and asks if it is possible for her to accompany them for a while. As Roa watches silently, Rust scratches his head and says he doesn't mind, but he inquires if she would find clues about the shaman where they are going. Tala replies that she doesn't know if the armored salmon attack was the shaman's doing, but there is a good chance that the shaman is after the alchemists. Hearing this, Rust replies that all this is just based on circumstantial evidence, and wonders if she is using him as a bait. Tala says that she would be under his care from now on, so Rust welcomes her as she joined their party. After this, they roam around the area, as Roa spots one of the prospects for their new camp. Seeing this, Rust narrates that they are looking for a new town, but at this point, they are going around pre-selected locations. He looks back and asks them if they are comfortable, as he narrates that he reworked composite scrolls to summon 2 Hippopo brothers. To this, Roa replies that she does like it, while Rust thinks that she might have gotten attached to that one. And after traveling for a while, they stumble upon a destroyed area, which looks to be in utter ruins. As they roam around, Rust narrates that the little encroachment by the vegetation is a hallmark of remote areas with highly concentrated magic elements. The stuff like the pavements are looking pretty nice, and says that he can reuse things like the parts of the road around here, because it can be leveled, to which Roa also agrees. She comments, it's nice that it's near the sea, but just outside of Merman territory, and asks what he thinks of it as a site of the new town. Rust replies that it is kind of strange that there aren't any monsters living in ruins like these. He adds that they have to look around and figure out why monsters aren't living here, but other than that, the place looks pretty good. Roa replies that apparently Kalen is after the sea, hearing which confuses Tala. Roa explains that Kalen wants to have a base on the coastline in the future to produce salt and have a port, which are very attractive ideas. Tala comments that the sea here is home to demons and mermen, hearing which Rust says that Kalen is the heroic demon slayer after all. So Tala asks if this would be a strategic position, and asks for Rust's opinion for their next action. Rust transcribes out an alchemic scroll, and says that they would first need to establish a base to carry out investigation, for which a building looks perfect. As the magic detector pendulum hangs, he says that he wants to see why they can't find any monsters here. The party investigates for a while. Finally, he says that he is getting a reaction, asking why the concentration of magic elements here are so high, even though he can't see anything. Rust looks at his diagnostic scroll and comments that there is nothing strange with any sort of composition, so it could just be the magic elements that are highly concentrated. He points somewhere and says there is magic element lying down there. Hearing this, Tala asks if magic elements is rare, but Rust replies that it is pretty common, especially in old magic circles. He explains it's a technique from before alchemy was established, when people used to write circles with magic elements on the ground, but now they keep them in scrolls for portability. He adds that since magic elements hang in the air, there are spots where they are concentrated, so there might be an old magic circle, and it's a pretty big one. Tala questions if it means that someone is maintaining it, but Rust replies that it's probably the type that is set for continuous use, and then they decide to follow the line for now. As they do, Rust says that the circle goes beyond the ruins. Finally, they stumble upon a door, where multiple magic element lines converge. They discuss opening it, because there is no way they can just leave after coming this far. Rust opens the door and discovers a basement that goes deep underground. He thinks that it doesn't look too deep and was about to say that he will go first. But before he finishes, Roa declares that she would go first and is quickly followed by Tala. Rust thinks that it's inappropriate for him to not go first, as this just doesn't seem right. After this, they walk in the dimly lit hall, while Roa deduces that people have definitely been here recently. But there are no traps, hearing which Rust narrates that Roa is looking through things to ensure their safe passage ahead. Rust asks Tala what she thinks this is, to which she comments that it doesn't look like the hiding place of a shaman. They are not going to find it quite so easily. After this, Roa says that someone is coming from the other side, and as soon as they hear that, they takes a defensive position to encounter the incoming threat. Just then, someone loudly orders them to not move, as he would roast them if they do. Rust recognizes the voice immediately, as it's from his former teacher, Master Halhammer. The shadowy figure asks if it's Rust talking to him, while the party watches the figure coming out of the shadows. Master Halhammer, who is the former president of the Alchemist Association and Rust's mentor, enters the scene and declares this situation to be quite the surprise. Rust replies that it is a surprise for him too, as he never thought he would find him here. Then, he introduces the man to his party, calling him Master Halhammer. Rust explains that Halhammer looked after him when he first joined the Alchemist Association, and asks what he is doing here, but Halhammer repeats the question to him. Seeing the ladies, Halhammer develops a funny idea, and jokes that Rust is a bit of a blockhead, who likes research a little too much, but he is a pretty good guy. Rust replies that this is a misunderstanding, but Halhammer insists that Rust does spend too much time researching and has almost no interest in girls. Then, he pets Rust on the head, wishing him good luck, while Rust groans from discomfort. Halhammer tells them they shouldn't be talking here, and invites the party over for some tea, as he would then explain the true reason he is here. Rust converses, asking if Halhammer works here, to which he says no, because he has already quit the association. Hearing Rust followed suit, he adds that he quit a year ago, as it was a clear demotion, so he didn't want to sit back and get paid. But he gets surprised from hearing Rust has quit as well, as Rust explains that an old friend offered him a new job. And so, Halhammer alleviates their distance, and says he is just happy to see that Rust is not rotting in that place out of consideration for him. Rust shamefully admits that he was powerless to stop the basic research department from being closed, which he inherited from Halhammer. Hearing this, Halhammer sympathizes with Rust, and tells him that people and ideas are what is most important. Organizations are only vessels that matter because of the people in them. While laughing, he continues that even if the organization is gone, the ideas behind the basic research department are right here with them. Hearing this, Rust narrates that he feels a weight is being lifted from his heart, while Halhammer assures him to not worry about anything. As the conversation goes on, Halhammer asks about his recent research developments since he has quit, to which Rust replies that he has been making more progress since he left, something which Halhammer expresses eagerness to hear about. Then, the ladies grab his attention and ask if the reunion would take long, to which Rust nervously agrees. After walking for a while, Halhammer introduces them to his fully stacked laboratory, filled with books, kegs, and alchemic research instruments. Seeing this, Roa comments that she doesn't understand the distinctive quality of this room, as this looks way different from the one Rust has. Hearing this, Halhammer laughs and instructs them not to touch anything, but Rust comments that Halhammer has been continuing his research. Like a wise person, Halhammer replies that this is the reason they study alchemy, which is not for money or fame. It's to face the unknown and investigate the truths of the world, because the knowledge they get could help someone else. As these two mighty alchemists stand, he finishes his thought, saying that the ideas of the basic research department are really alive here. All of a sudden, Rust gets shocked from seeing something, while Halhammer says he knew for sure that Rust would spot it. He reveals the Moonlight Winter Beast Summer, which is a rare parasitic mushroom that attaches itself to beasts and grows with moonlight, something which auto-digests and disappears in one night, making it really valuable, while Rust praises its size and beauty. Rust excitedly asks if Halhammer is using it as a medium to separate magic elements, which is spot on according to his mentor. As they sit over drinks, Halhammer assumes Tala to be a follower of Aresla, to which she agrees and introduces herself. Halhammer replies that there is a lot he wants to talk about, but hands her an object, asking if she knows what it is. Upon inspection, Tala says that it looks like a seal of Aresla, and it is old. She asks how he got this, to which Halhammer replies that they should start from the beginning. He says that when he came here, there were no people or monsters on this land, while Rust replies he thought that it was Halhammer who repelled them. Hearing this, Halhammer asks if he saw the big magic circle, considering the stagnation of the magic elements. The first hypothesis has to be a magic circle. Then, Halhammer asks how they got here, to which Rust replies that he came upon where the lines crossed, because it looked suspicious. Halhammer reveals that this is how he got here as well, and once he started digging, he found underground tunnels. Rust asks if this place was already here, to which Halhammer agrees. He questions why monsters don't get close and what the underground passages are for, and asks Rust if he noticed it. Halhammer explains that the magic circle there is only a portion of a combination of over 100 magic circles, hearing which Rust gets surprised and calculates if it is possible. Halhammer says that he is right theoretically, as he has been investigating, and this was like this when he got here, so it has to be clearly man-made. And while taking them somewhere, Halhammer says that he found another place here, to which Tala and Rust sees something in surprise. They land in front of an altar that looks to be damaged. Halhammer reveals that he found the room, and asks Tala if she knows what this is. As she says no, he explains that it does look like an altar for Aresla, so it could very well be related. Halhammer says he doesn't know when these passages were made, but the magic circle leads him to think that this place is old enough to be called ancient, so it might be the birthplace of the Aresla religion. Tala is delighted to see it, and thanks him a lot for showing this to her. Halhammer says that he wonders if the place is related to primordial magic, which is the predecessor of alchemy, and he has been taking it easy investigating it. Just when Rust hears about primordial magic, he gets a brilliant idea, but then he asks Roa if she sees something. All of a sudden, they hear the screams of Saluk emanating from above their ceiling. While Rust wonders if the voice came from Saluk, Halhammer explains that the air holes here let in sound from outside, and asks if it is his transmuted beast's voice, to which Rust replies that he formed a contract with a dragon. Rust informs them that he has to go back to the surface, while Halhammer is clearly surprised to hear about a dragon, and asks him if he used primordial magic. Rust narrates that Master Halhammer's research is about the transition from primordial magic to alchemy, and this is why he is curious to know, but he replies that Saluk was the one who used it on him. While Rust hurriedly climbs up, Halhammer says that he really wants to study the dragon, but Rust forbids him from dissecting it, hearing which Halhammer gets unnerved, and replies that he would never do something so tactless, and asks how far is he allowed to go. To which Rust replies, only as far as Saluk allows. Halhammer keeps blabbering excitedly, asking if the dragon can tell whether the alchemist exams are being done correctly or not, and if it is intelligent. Meanwhile, Rust thinks that he hasn't seen Master Halhammer in a while, but he is unusually excited, as he is someone who looks for truths hidden in the abyss, so he understands the intrigue, because he would be just like him if something that could be a breakthrough for a research came in front of him. But he feels kind of uneasy from all his interest, so he would need to keep an eye on Saluk. After coming outside, Rust screams Saluk's name as he seems to be chased by another monster in the sky. Seeing this, Tala says that she recognizes this feathered snake. It's the familiar of the shaman. Rust understands that is a similar familiar type to the one Hippopo smashed. He exclaims his frustration as he understands the monster is a bad match for his dragon. He recalls that when Saluk was grabbed by the tentacle in the pond, it showed no sign of fighting back, so he thinks these familiars are made specifically to counter Saluk. Suddenly, Saluk charges up the dragon breath to attack, but Rust tells him to wait and take some distance before shooting it. Then, Saluk launches the dragon breath at the winged snake monster, but it easily evades the dragon's attack and charges at him right away. Seeing that the monster dodged the attack's trajectory, Rust pulls out his alchemic scrolls. Then, he throws the scroll in the air, wondering if this would make it in time. All of a sudden, the snake ejects a barrage of long tentacles and quickly binds the dragon in the air. From this, Saluk is bound as Rust watches its eyes in agony. The snake then quickly flies away while carrying the bound Saluk, while Halhammer apologizes for the situation. Without wasting time, Rust announces that he is going after Saluk, since he is probably the fastest one here. But the rest of the squad request to tag along, as Tala says that she found a clue. Rower reasons that she can see far away, and Halhammer knows how to deal with traps. But Rust apologizes, saying that he needs to prioritize speed at this moment. He asks Master Halhammer if he can bring everyone with transmuted beasts, because it usually doesn't rain in this remote region at this time of the year, so they can just follow Hippopo's tracks. Having said that, he gallops forwards while riding on Hippopo's back, as the rest watch him leave. Seeing Rust vanish into the horizon, Halhammer comments that Rust has really grown from since he last saw him.